Welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting of October 1st, 2018. We're here in Westborough Memorial Hall and Westborough Town Hall, and we'll review the agenda before we start our meeting. We'll open tonight with an open forum. I'll come back to that. We'll then review and approve past minutes from September 27th, 2018. Next, we have Superintendent Bach and Mr. Stephen Durrett of the school committee and a couple of other school committee members here to go over the warrant articles concerning the schools. Following that, we will be looking at the police department's warrant articles, and Chief Laurie is scheduled to be here with us tonight to answer questions on that. Our bicycle and pedestrian committee is here, Mr. Bruce Treader and Don Byrne, to answer questions about their related warrant articles. After we have our presentations here tonight, the committee will continue to review warrant articles and find out which ones are ready for a vote tonight and review which ones we will still be collecting further information. We'll check in on our final draft agendas as we move towards town meeting, and then finally hear liaison reports, comments, and concerns from committee members. So with that, I will go back to open forum, and if we have anyone here tonight who would like to comment on something on the agenda or not on the agenda, now's your time to speak. Okay, there being none, we'll take a look at past minutes. Do we have a proposal to approve past minutes or a motion?
So moved.
Second here, Mr. McGoldrick. All in favor? All opposed? Past minutes of September 27th, 2018 are approved. Next, we'd like to look at our school committee warrant articles or our school warrant articles, and those include, just a moment, we have School Building Committee, Articles 27, 28, and 41, and 29. So 27, 28, 29, and is it still Article 41? Anyway,
so, yeah.
From the school department is Ms. Bach, Superintendent Bach. You're here to go through these warrant articles and answer questions?
Good evening, Amber Bach, 10 Arch Street, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you for having us. We will try to be brief and work off of your questions. You are correct, we have 3 articles before you that fall in order, and then there's the last one, Article 41. It might be helpful to step through all 3 and then take questions. Is that preferable to you as a chair?
Sure, that's great.
So all 3 of these articles represent, I believe, a recognition of the strong work of the Pre-K3 Building Committee and the Gibbons School Building Committee, of which you have representation on your board here on both of those with Gary Wells and Andrew, who participate in making sure that we've been the steward of these funds and keeping them as rigorously applied to their projects as possible. Thus, I think the good news being that we're here with 3 articles in front of you that are basically a reallocation or amended debt authorization to basically utilize these funds to move forward for other parts of projects that we want to accomplish without requesting any additional funds. So Article 27, and I will briefly go over them, and then Mr. Durrett, who is the chair of both of those committees, can answer any specified questions that you might have. Article 27 seeks to transfer funds for FAIL's MSBA schematic design phase of the project. We're at the phase where, in moving forward with FAIL's, we need to take an allocation of $378,000 to do the schematic design phase to keep HMFH moving forward on the timeline as we take the next step forward in the MSBA approval process. In order to do that, we're looking at the reallocation of apportioned funds from the Hastings Article 5 of the Fall Town Meeting 2017, and then a portion of funds from Article 20 of the 2018 meeting for the Armstrong modular construction, to take some of those remaining funds and to basically move forward with a portion of those funds from each for a total of the $378,000 needed for the schematic design. Article 28 follows a similar plan transferring remaining Gibbons School, Armstrong School, and Hastings Pre-K3 funds to the MSBA design phase for the Hastings Accelerated Repair Project, to which we've been accepted to enter into the next phase. In this case, it's setting aside the funding so that we can go to the MSBA and indicate that the town has voted the funds necessary for us to be accepted into the next step of the project for the accelerated repair. We've characterized that discussion when we've come before you as Hastings 2, which is the opportunity to fund windows, doors, and roof and the HVAC system of Hastings, but to be able to garner MSBA funding reimbursement, which takes funding from the original warrant article of the geothermal from a year and a half ago, and we held those funds aside, hoping to be able to go to the MSBA for the accelerated repair and be able to then actually gain the reimbursement percentage of some of those funds. Lastly, you have Article 29, which seeks to repair the upper parking lot and guardrail of the front sidewalk area of the high school, again utilizing portions of funds remaining from previous articles. It's important to note, I think, in Article 29 that we've continued to work in collaboration with the Capital Subcommittee, where those projects have come forward through the Capital Committee to discuss them and to anticipate the need for the upper parking lot and the front replacement of the sidewalk to be considered within the capital project expenditures. Because that project, those constitute a large sum of $232,000 at their estimates, Capital Committee felt that they should be an independent warrant article. So given that we held on those in the spring of last year and are hoping to now move them forward with the remaining funds apportioned from part of the high school security system, which came in advantageously, and a portion of the Gibbons remaining funds. So all of three of those articles basically echo an approach to reutilize allocations and to seek reauthorization of the debt allowable. And I would open it up to questions, and at that time would turn it over to Mr. Durrett for any specified information you might need.
And we'll come back and talk about your Article 40 after this.
I think it's easier to do 41 at the end, which is,
Yep.
yeah, basically.
And it's become Article 40 now.
Oh, has it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I have the
In the
most
final,
current.
in the very final warrant, it's
Thank
become
you.
Article 40. Yes, Paul, did you have questions?
Yeah, but what's the advantage of, it seems there's a psychological advantage, but is there any other advantage of doing it this way as opposed to returning the funds and then asking for them clean?
Well, as you have heard, that the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates again. I think it's the third time this year. If you recall, the bonding that was authorized earlier this year in June, which picks up, in effect, all the bonds amounts of money, including the stuff we're talking about, came back at 1.74%. There's no way we're going to see that again. So the advantage to the town is to continue to use the authorization, to use the authorization created by the town for that borrowing at that interest rate. So that's the advantage. And the other psychological is, what we're really telling you is that we did a good job. Andrew was part of it for Gibbons.
I should have started with that.
And we're proud of it, and we
Yeah.
want the town to know that
I guess-
if they give us money, that we're gonna do our very best to get it done for the scope and quality that the town wants, and to be, husband the money as well as we can.
We also moved forward to do it in one article allocation, as opposed to the way the fire department reallocation came forward, as Steve has designed, just because with those articles, I felt that the clarity of really the semantics of how it's articulated was more clear in a single article motion.
Just a quick follow-up. What's the source for, other than that we know the Fed raised rates, do you have a professional, I know you know what you're talking about, but I would like to verify, like, where.
Okay, the source for 1.75 is what Jim said here in June. I asked the question,
That's
what was the
okay.
interest rate? That's what he said. As far as where it's going to go, who knows? But I just heard on the way down here that Cambridge Bank is offering CDs at 3%. So I think that tells you where it's going.
Mr. Roush has a question?
I got a couple of questions, but Have we already borrowed the money? Have we already put
We-
out long-term
yes,
20-year
and in fact,
bonds?
That's the
for that
reason
money?
why this is complicated. We borrowed some of the money, and the Hastings money is cash that was already borrowed. So that money is in the till, and in fact, we're transferring it.
We already bonded it out with long-term bonds as opposed to short-term bonds.
No,
Is it-
even the bonding, the 37 million in June was short-term bonds.
I have,
Well, then your interest rate argument doesn't hold water, because if it hasn't been bonded out as long-term, we have not tied down the interest rate.
No, but we're borrowing against those short-term bonds.
But you have to bond it out as a long-term 20-year obligation, and that will have to go out to bid, and it will be bid at whatever the bid is at the
These
time it
articles
goes
were
out.
all borrows.
I understand that. All I'm trying to do is clarify what I understand the situation is. If we haven't done the long-term borrow, we haven't written the 20-year or 30-year, whatever it is going to be, bonds, then those have to go out to bid. And they will bid out, and they will be bonded out at whatever the interest rate is that people bid on those bonds,
So
which
the-
will not be the rate that was in force a year ago or 2 years ago.
It's whatever it is, Hank.
Well, but we need to be accurate and clear and not mislead the voters, okay?
so the
We borrowed
consequence
money
is,
at
We did not borrow,
1.74%.
today, we have short-term borrowing at that rate.
Right.
When we go to bond it out long-term, it's going to end up going to a
I
higher
can't
rate. So we
change the
shouldn't-
policy of the town as
shouldn't
to
tell
how we
people that they're
acquire
saving
money for
by
these
bonding,
projects.
by
all right,
making a transfer.
I am not going to have this argued out in the committee now. There's a point of information with a factual answer. We have the town treasurer, or the town finance director coming in on Thursday. If this is another point that you want a factual answer to,
Yes.
let's form a clear question
Sure,
and have
and
our
I can-
finance director help research
Yeah.
that question and bring us the
But
factual
I
answer.
do want to respond to this. Every time we come in to borrow money, the process that I'm talking about is exactly what we do every time. We accumulate the debt in short-term notes, and then we borrow long-term. And I can't speak to what those future borrowings
Interest
would be.
rates are gonna be.
But to the extent that we do borrow to do these particular projects, of which every single one of these was a borrow authorization, that was the interest rate for short-term borrowing.
And
And it's true, that's what it is.
We're going forward.
All right, but just,
And the reason why I structured that sheet the way I did was to show you that we haven't exhausted the remainder in each one of those accounts, because although these jobs are basically complete, including Gibbons, as you've probably seen, Andrew, that the canopy is almost done, there may be some minor changes in terms of extras and other things. So we've carried a balance in those accounts. And what will happen to the balance is, when the job is done and the job is closed, if it's cash, it goes back to free cash. If it's a remaining borrowing authorization, it'll just disappear.
all right, other questions? Yes, Mr. Driscoll.
I'm kind of used to sources and uses of funds, okay? Can you help me out here? As far as I understand, the sources of the funds are coming from Hastings contingency, Armstrong contingency, the high school security, and the previous debt at Gibbons. Is that it? Is that four? All right. And what are the uses of it now? It's going to be for
For the
design system?
the schematic design
Yeah.
for fails.
It's going to be used for the parking lot and repairs?
No, let's start with 27.
Okay.
27 is for the schematic design of fails,
Yep.
which is an MSBA project for which, when it begins, we will begin to get paid by the state at the percentage rate they return,
Okay, so
which
that's one use.
historically
Yep.
was 43%.
Yep. The second use?
The second use is for the Hastings accelerated repair,
Right.
and that scope of work is the roof, replacement windows, doors, ADA doors, and the HVAC system, the heat pump system.
And the third is the high school.
And the
Up
high
to
school,
repairs.
the high school itself was a borrow for the security system in the original amount of $400,000. The bid came in at 191, and the difference between that and the other amounts that I'm showing in the total were for extras on the project, which left that balance.
Okay. So the sources and the uses of the funds end
Are
up
all
with
school.
zero. Now my,
There's one raise.
yeah.
No,
There's
no,
one
the raise
reason
went away.
appropriate.
You have to read the
On-
new language in
29.
Oh, I have an
29.
old one, sorry.
29 has a $180,000 reallocation of debt plus $52,000. No?
That's an
No.
old one.
That's an old one. The new 29 is, I think, the language on the bottom of my summary sheet,
Okay,
which basically says 111,000,
okay.
which is the balance in that original article for the
Okay.
security system.
And still a
And then
reason
a transfer
appropriate?
of the
No,
authorization.
transfer
to
from
borrow.
Gibbons,
Gibbons.
Yeah.
the Gibbons School renovation account.
Okay, so there is no RNA on number 29? And
No.
I don't mean to...
So
to-
this is cash neutral to the town.
Okay.
Now, my other question is, under borrowing, when we borrow, the life expectancy of what we're doing with the money has to be at least 10 years.
Mhm.
Is that true with the repairs for the road and the brim and everything like that?
Yes.
Yeah, at least that one.
Yeah, the last repair we did at the high school, particularly for the sidewalks, was at least 10 years ago, and the guardrail is the original guardrail that was put in 2001 when we renovated the high school.
Okay, so the projects are,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And these articles have been reviewed by town council as well as bond council.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Roush?
Going back to number 27, if I understand correctly, the total expenditure is $378,000.
Mhm.
Does that pay for the entire cost of the schematic design?
Yes.
And when will that be done?
Sometime around December, so that we can, we hope, be authorized for the remainder of the project by MSBA, and we'll come back to the town meeting in March for the money for that.
With a number.
Okay, yeah, does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
Other questions?
So we have a follow-up email that will make sure we answer Mr. Rouch's question.
Well, I think
as
I've answered
needed.
this question.
If there's need for additional discussion, we can have that. And then do you want to move to the last one, Article 40?
40 now, yep.
So, I don't know if I have, let me just see if I...
Article 40 is the envelope for Hastings School,
Here it is.
I believe. Or is it fails?
It's fails, the
Okay.
zoning setback for fails.
There's actually two. There's one
Yeah.
for Hastings and there's one for fails.
But this one's ours and the other one is,
No, the other one is ours too. School Building
There's-
Committee, if you will.
Oh,
Okay,
School
so-
Building Committee.
Yeah.
So Article 40 is zoning for fails.
Yeah, Article 40 is zoning setback for Fales Elementary School, and you said there's another one here.
Yeah,
What
they're
number?
both the same. The article for Hastings is
That would be
is a
Article
modification of the
30
original one that was done
38.
for the Hastings construction.
Article 38.
And the reason why it's been amended is because in order to deal with the repair of the
That's right.
heat pump system, we need more room in the heat pump room, because what's in there is all jammed in there, and you can't do proper maintenance on it. So we have done a preliminary design on what that room needs to be, and it grew by a small margin in order to get everything in there. The building inspector said he couldn't allow us to go forward unless we went with a revised envelope on that project. So I think that's
38.
38. And so that one has already been posted by the planning board, the public hearing was held, and in fact, the planning board is offering that article,
Right.
but the source of it was
School Building.
the school building committee for Hastings.
That
and then
makes sense.
40 is the
And-
zoning setback for
And
fails.
40 is the zoning, the similar envelope, building envelope for Fales, even though we won't get to do that for a couple of years. The MSBA, in our process of review, asked whether there were any other outstanding issues that needed to be resolved, of which the zoning envelope would be one.
Okay.
So we brought forward that article. Its public hearing is tomorrow night with the planning board. So at that point in time, once the envelope is voted, or brought, when the planning board votes to accept that and offer it at town meeting, then it'll be town meeting to vote that envelope.
Okay. Ms. Bloomberg, you have a question?
So the last, and I have to be honest, I haven't been good about going to the most recent meetings, but the last time I went, there were sort of 3 plans or
Mhm.
3+ plans, depending on how you read the
Right.
interpretations. So are you making it an envelope that sort of encompasses all 3, or did you kind of narrow it down?
No, it encompasses, we learned, it encompasses basically around the tree line of the lot, so that whatever we need to do, whatever MSBA chooses to offer us for the design will fit within that envelope.
So your best guess is you're trying to minimize having to come back and say, hi, we need an extra foot?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Yes, Paul?
Hastings, how is that, I may just have not read it thorough enough, how is it being paid for, the changes?
Oh, this is just a zoning article.
Okay, but...
There's no cost.
But those changes, when they happen,
When
is that
they
future?
happen, will be Hastings 2, and in fact, it's part of the program for the accelerated repair program. And since the heating system is part of that, and the heat pump room, if you will, is also part of that, we needed to do that in order to move forward with the MSBA. So for both of those projects, by the way, we do expect to see a refund from the state. Our minimum refund so far is 43%. On Gibbons, it was 46.15, based on credits and other things we got. We haven't been assigned that yet, but the difference may occur.
When does that come in? When does the town see that?
Say that again?
When does the town see that state reimbursement?
Oh, you get it, we get paid every month. In
Okay,
other words, when we submit a bill to the state of what we've paid our contractor, they refund it approximately maybe a month later,
and it's in the 40-ish percent?
40-ish percentile, yeah.
Okay,
Good math term.
Yeah, so then, you know, if you will, the net borrow on Gibbons, although the project was something like 21, almost 22 million, the actual out-of-pocket for the town was 13. And
okay,
in fact, the difference between it and the real cost was the money that came back to the town and went to the, where'd it go? I guess it went into free cash.
okay,
No, it goes against the bond out.
okay.
Doesn't go to free cash.
Well, if we didn't borrow the money, we don't have to pay off that debt. So, but the percentage, in other words, if we borrowed the money, as we've discussed,
Short-term borrowing.
and we had to borrow the whole amount, okay? We had to authorize the whole amount. We borrow on an incremental basis. We don't borrow it all at once.
I agree.
So when the money comes back, it goes somewhere, and if it goes to pay off that debt, I don't know.
Okay,
You can ask,
the finance director will
Leah,
probably have
where it
more
goes.
detail. Andrew, yes?
Can you speak for, excuse me, 38 and/or 40 with regards to what the encroachment would be, or the approach to encroachment to neighboring properties would be?
well, for Hastings, which is what we're talking about, this
Yep.
minor change, which is on the, if you're looking at the school on the right side in the back,
Okay,
it expands that building wall by about 15 feet, so we're hundreds of feet away from that property line.
okay, great, thank you.
At Hastings, excuse me, it fails.
Yeah.
It's off the property line maybe 20, 30 feet. In other words, we wouldn't go into the tree line around the property.
Okay, thank you.
But we're not building anywhere close to that.
Yes, Sean?
Sorry to take us back here. So I see the majorities are, these are a two-thirds vote in order
Yes.
to pass. 27 is only a simple majority, is that?
Did it stay that way? And that's because the cash has already been borrowed and we're not messing with the bonds.
Thanks for pointing
So
that
it's
out.
actually cash in the account, although it was borrowed as the source. It's actually cash the town
It's
has.
contingency, right.
Okay,
And so it's in the project contingency.
gotcha. Thank you.
Well, I think 20, so it's a simple majority on 27, you're saying? I think it's a simple majority on
Yeah.
28 also.
Well, it will change.
Okay.
Two-thirds.
Yeah,
Two-thirds on
and it may
28.
change for all of them. I don't know, because
Yeah, I've
as I
got
said,
two
bond
versions of the
council is
warrant.
still mulling this over.
Okay, so maybe undecided.
Obviously, it's harder as a two-thirds than a simple majority.
Yeah, I've got two copies of the warrant here.
I think we're on- I
Originally-
think
We'll
we're on
make sure in the
version
end we're
nine,
looking at the
yeah.
last one.
Originally, they were all simple majorities,
Okay.
but
and now-
as we went through the various revisions,
Okay.
I know two of the three changed to two-thirds, and they
Okay,
may all change to two-thirds.
good. Thanks for pointing that out, John.
I would
Yes,
ask though,
Andrew?
that given the paper shuffle that we're doing and we have the warrants, obviously in town hall, are you thinking about a way you can present this so that it's going to be clear?
Well, there'll be maps that'll go up on the
Okay.
screen for each of them.
For the money, maps for the money, or?
We'll prepare,
Okay.
I mean, that's why it's always helpful when we come to you as a
Yeah.
committee, and the range of your questions will direct the way that we prepare the presentation on town meeting floor. So this has been very helpful, so we'll be able to take that back and utilize it to kind of create a clear presentation.
We all want to try and fit 40 articles into one evening, so.
I know, that's why the motions in one article is kind of
Yeah.
cleaner, hopefully.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I'm just going to say it's also, I think, in some ways less risky that one gets approved and the other doesn't.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, it's going to throw a monkey wrench into the progress that we're dealing with for Fails and
Well,
Hastings.
I meant when you do two articles for
Right,
the same
I agree with you. It's a
issue.
little cleaner to do it as one, so I agree.
Remind me which one you're referring to that has been collapsed into
So-
one article?
So all
All of
three
ours are being
of the school
presented,
committees
right.
are presented as one article,
Well,
but
Okay, are
Let's-
presented, but
let's be
they're
clear.
appearing on the final warrant.
Yes.
29
No,
is from the school
so
committee,
the.
Okay.
27
okay,
and 28 are from the building committee.
So
okay.
I think what we're talking about is as presented as one article, is there's the collapse of an article and the opening of a new article, the one that it is. So the funding source is relatively collapsing because they're not closing it, but they're pulling a lot of the money out of it. Whereas, I forget who it was, but one of the ones that Town Manager Malloy had set up, he had an article that closed the account and used the same money, but he opened it in a second article.
Right.
Okay, so
So-
those transactions are happening within
Right.
single articles this time around?
And that,
So it's a
Okay.
zero sum for both of them.
Okay.
But yet, it's how you present it.
Right, and the motions are going to be a little bit tricky, so work on that before town meeting. Okay.
Well, the motions, first of all, will be reviewed by bond counsel and specifically by the MSBA.
Right.
Okay.
They have very specific language, as you recall.
Okay.
Takes forever to read them.
Yeah.
But, because the state is opting out of this and that and everything else except, and obligating the town to carry the whole thing if they choose not to give us the money.
Okay, great. Yes, Paul?
I think, if I'm correct, on top of all these also is the sort of philosophical debate that we had last time about borrowing versus cash. Before, I think you guys were advocating cash, but for the planning, since it may not go forward, or has that progressed, I guess?
Well,
We're-
first of all, when we talk about anything with the MSBA, they will want the entire piece of what they're after. And Article 27 is adding to an original authorization that was $500,000 for not only Phase 3, which was the planning phase, but also the schematic phase. When we finally got all our prices in, we found out that we didn't have enough money to do 3 and 4. So Article 27 is adding to what was already authorized under the MSBA auspices and adding to it so we can complete Phase 4 of the program.
Were you asking for cash for that before, though?
No, these are all borrows.
Last
The
year?
500 was a borrow, yes.
Yeah, the 500 was a borrow and even the
Oh,
400,000.
and we did that already?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's one of those reference articles.
Well, and the way, of course, the MSBA just keeps stepping you from one step to the next, and they just want you to keep checking the boxes, gathering the funding, and showing the commitment of the town to move forward in the design process.
Okay. Other questions? All right, that's very helpful. Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Durrett and Ms.
Yeah,
Bach.
that's
That's
very helpful.
helpful to
Thank
our
you.
deliberations.
Thank
Yep.
you.
And, you
Thank you.
can thank Andrew because he brought in all the money
Oh, yeah,
for giving.
Big sales, big sales, big sales.
that's great. Thank you. Our next agenda item is the police department, and we have, it looks like Article 7, 8, 9, and is it still Article 36? We have Chief Lurie here tonight. Thank you for joining us. And I'll make sure we're looking at have your warrant articles changed much from the proposed ones to the final ones? They're the same?
Should be.
Okay,
I think the only one that was taken off was the animal control
okay,
bylaw.
okay.
We're doing some work on that. Real brief before the lieutenant takes over the show. Basically, we're here before you, really kind of inform you, educate you on the big ticket warrant article, which is number 7, and I can answer any questions too. Hopefully this presentation will answer them for you. I don't have to go any further than really today. We had a couple incidents that happened in town. We needed a canine. We actually had some lost kids, and we found them using Marlboros. We have a canine officer that's in the Canine Academy in Boston right now, and social media monitoring that today. We put up a post about an accident down at the Rotary, and people are requesting, patrols there and officers there. So this warrant article will kind of address some of those concerns, but we have a dedicated traffic officer. But before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to have Lieutenant Minardi just walk you through the beginning portion, and then I'll explain to you our methodology on where we're at.
Welcome, Lieutenant Menard.
Good evening. Todd Minardi, Police Department. Just thank you for letting us be here before you today. I'm just going to run through the first part of our article that relates to some increases in some of the line items that we want to make. I know in the essence of time, we have a lot of information here, so I'll just try to run through it as quick as I can, and obviously if you have any questions, we'll address those. So, as you know, we have a line item budget. There's two sides to our budget. The first half is salary and wages, which we'll address first, and the second half is expenses. The first part that we want to address is our general overtime. You can see briefly, we had about 3,000 hours in FY18. It should be noted there was an additional 2,000 hours in FY18 that was awarded in compensatory time at a savings of about $100,000 in actual expenses to the town. What we're looking to do is do responsible budgeting practices based on our past expenditures and improve some of our minimum staffing. You can see from the graph where we've been in the last few years as far as budgeted and expended. I know there have been some questions by this board in previous years as to what why we were budgeting a certain amount and expending a different amount. Our philosophy is that we want to try to budget more accurately as to what we're expending. So that's what the increase to our general overtime is based on. We're trying to be more accurate in what we're expecting to spend. And as the chief's going to allude to later, we're trying to do some increased staffing so that we have better coverage on our shifts. One of our other overtime line items is training overtime. In FY18, we had about 800 hours of training overtime. We're looking to add about 300 hours to improve the level of training. Training is very important to us, and again, you'll see that in some of the future slides about what we've been trying to increase. A total of 1,100 hours, if we're successful in this article and adding 2 positions, actually only equates to about 36 hours of training overtime per officer on the department. We currently already have 44 hours of mandated in-service training per year, which is for our firearms, our taser, and our regular in-service at the academy. So we try to do a lot of that on straight time, but obviously if we're doing any specialized training on top of the 44 hours, it starts to get a little bit taxing. Just a quick note on training liability. We threw this Supreme Court case in here, the City of Canton versus Harris. It's really a foundational case across the country that relates to municipalities facing liability for failure to train its police officers. The town wants to run a police department, it's required to properly train them. I could get in the nuts and bolts of it if you want to, but that's really what it stands for. So when we talk about increased training, we look at a little bit of our history of specialized training. This is above and beyond our 44 hours of in-service. In 2017, there were only 20 specialized classes attended by our officers. In FY18, after Chief Laurie started, we ratcheted that up to 40. So far in FY19, we're at 49. So you can see we put an emphasis on training, and obviously with that, there comes an expense. This is a little bit of our history on our training overtime expenses. You see that it was kind of budgeted at a flat line for quite a while. There were some spikes in there, and it slowly dropped off. So we're trying to increase that. I think I've explained that. So the other side of our line item budget is expenses. We're looking to increase our out-of-state travel so that we can attend some professional conferences. The chief's going to the International Chiefs of Police Association conference out in Florida. Very important training for the command staff. There's also the federal government office offers a lot of great training in other states, but obviously you have to travel there to get it. An increase in dues and memberships. We have a number of specialty assignments. We'd like those people to be able to get involved in some professional associations to stay current on what's going on with their assignments. And again, the training and education as far as the expenses side of it, professional development reduces liability as we've talked about. So when we based our projection, we looked at 3 classes per year at an average of $350 per class, that's per officer. We've tried to find free classes whenever we can. Some of the classes that we have to pay for might be $150. Some of them, we just sent an officer to Roger Williams University for a command level training class for 2 weeks. That was $1,800. So we tried to find a balance in there, and that's where we landed. Obviously, as we look back historically over time, as we continue, we can adjust that. Books and periodicals, pretty straightforward. We need to update our logbooks. Contractual services, again, pretty straightforward. It's contractual. We have to make those adjustments. So the recommended new line item for equipment, what this is basically based on is required money to equip and maintain some of our specialty assignments. Excuse me. So here is a partial list of some of the assignments that we're currently doing. Some of these we've had before and we lost. Many of them we've just started. But every single one of these requires equipment, and we have currently no funding mechanism for those assignments. The drone unit, for instance, we initially funded it through asset forfeiture money. We're looking to acquire a night vision camera for it and an infrared vision camera for it. It's a $6,000 camera. And we actually could have used it today looking for the 2 girls that ran off into the woods, but we don't have it. So that's basically the nuts and bolts of it. And again, in the interest of time, I'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you.
So, something you're going to hear me say often, when I left this area, left the Shrewsbury Police Department, I went to the Auburn Police Department, the agencies were similar in staffing. The Shrewsbury Police Department has added over 20 officers since I left in 1994. Westborough's added zero. So when I talk about the issues, social media and different things, there's only so many tires that are on the road. So when I took over early on, I was at my desk about this time of night, and there were 2 officers booking a prisoner in Southborough, and the sergeant was filling details for 2.5 hours. There was no one on the road. So if a call came in, it was a sergeant and I, or mutual aid, as in today, one call completely shut your police department down, and we were utilizing mutual aid. We had the state police in town and other communities assisting us with routine calls for service. It can happen. So what we're trying to do is work with you and the folks in town to bring us up to a staffing level that I believe is acceptable. So immediately early on, I added a body to the patrol division on days and 4 to 12s. I thought it was necessary for the safety of the officers. We also purchased some detail filling software. We're much more efficient in doing that now. So I'm trying to increase the department from 29 to 31. And the 2 positions of this. One is deputy chief. I'm seeking to create this position to have a clear second in command, essential for confidential police and management matters, provides clear chain of command with the second in command to have the authority in my absence, provides me with an executive level officer for confidential consultation on all executive level decisions and personnel matters, provides an executive level position outside of the union for disciplinary issues, contract disputes, internal investigations, and general personnel matters, provides for a clear delineation at the lieutenant level between detective and patrol operations. I'm honored to be a chief, as I said at the selectmen's meeting. I hope you want me to stay here for quite a while. However, I do want a succession plan. I want to be clear that as honored as I am to be the first chief selected from outside the town of Westborough, I will be the last. I'm making sure that my staff, command staff, is brought up to speed to take over in my absence, and then when they retire, theirs. So that's what we're trying to do with that position. So there'll be another command level. Again, with our detective bureau, we've been extremely busy. I said at the selectmen's meeting, we've had some serious crimes against some females in town. There is no budget when that comes into the Westborough Police Department, so there's a lot of overtime right now in the investigative section. So it would be adding a body to the investigative section as I would create a detective's lieutenant's position. So you would see a patrolman hired, a patrolman would be promoted to sergeant, a sergeant would be promoted to lieutenant, and a lieutenant will be promoted to deputy chief. The second position that I really think is extremely important is our traffic officer position. It is the #1 complaint I receive, and this officer will cover Caleb Paulsino. He's the officer that's in the Boston Police Academy right now, We were able to utilize the Stanton grant, and also Homeland Security provided us a vehicle, at over $60,000 vehicle at no cost to the taxpayers. He'll help oversee and cover those shifts as well. But this officer will predominantly, his mission will be, or her mission will be, traffic enforcement, which is a really #1 issue. When I talk about population call volume increase, when we went to Fountainhead the other day, there's 500 people were supposed to be in that building, but 1,000 people plus came out of it. When we look at our school system, our class sizes are much higher. Well, that means there's more parents in town, there's more people. So I believe our population is higher than what our actual census, 19,107, is saying. Given that aside, you don't have to drive through the Rotary, Route 9, to notice there's 40, 50, 60, 70,000 people in our daytime population with all the commercial business and everything we have in town. We have to look at it from the standpoint, it's not who sleeps here at night that's on our census, but those that we serve. Our 7 hotels, our 2 inns, these are people that are staying in town that are taking calls for service from our offices, and I think it's very important that we address this. In 1990, we had 28, in 1995, 29, and today, 29, we're projecting, we'd like to see us at 31. This is our current population. You can see our staffing really hasn't changed, but yet our population has, and I still would argue that it's an error. Our call volume has increased. One of the reasons for that is we created a STEPS program, Strategic Traffic Enforcement Program. You can go on our website, fill out an email, and we'll do traffic enforcement in that area. A sergeant will get back to you, Sergeant Goodney, and let you know what the outcome was. By doing that, when we had our free time, by putting the extra body out in the streets to show you the difference in call volume, we wrote 211 citations in the month of May 2017. Well, we wrote 538 May of 18. Now, majority of those are warnings. We use it as an educational tool. You know, unless you're fresh or a repeat violator, you know, we're going to just basically try to educate you on the rules of the road. But at the end of the day, we're busier. Calls are coming in. Like I said, the investigative section, they just solved not just our bank robbery in Westborough, but they solved 5 others. We had the $300,000 gold larceny that was at one of our hotels. We not only solved that, which is amazing police work, we're also working with the officials in Maryland and in Rhode Island on 2 others. So this you can see is a call volume trend. It's not decreasing, it's increasing. We're collecting our data properly, moving forward to make sure that any grant money, anything that's out there that we're able to qualify for. So shifts at minimum staffing. This slide is just basically showing you we were running at or below minimum of majority of times in most shifts. Now this changed a little bit from the selectmen's presentation the other night till today, because we had some old data that said it was 1.8 officers per 1,000, but we found some 2017 data that's suggesting that in Massachusetts it's 2.4 per 1,000. 2.4. We're at 1.45. So we're basically over an officer below what the average is in the state of Massachusetts. Again, straightforward slide, just kind of showing the Northeast, Massachusetts, and Westborough PD. We're woefully understaffed. And the reason how we get through this is obviously by buying that detail software, by having excellent police officers. You've hired extremely well in the town of Westborough, and we've been able to keep up somewhat, but we need some help. So this is our budget versus the rest of the town's budget, 3%. And obviously we're looking for an increase. We understand that with that comes some angst to the taxpayers and to the town, but I firmly believe as your chief, as the caretaker of the Westborough community, that this is a direction we can at least start having conversation about. I'm trying to definitely avoid, you know, a tragedy. So yeah, we're looking for a big number. We're looking for an increase in wages of $228,767 and an increase in expenses of $68,795 for a total increase of $297,562. This will bring us through June 30th of 2019. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Ms. Bloomberg, you have a question, and then we'll come down to Mr. Roush and Mr. Driscoll.
This is something that seems to me like this is just the tip of the iceberg. Like, where do you think in 5 or 10 years you want the police force to grow
so basically, you know, our thought process, our methodology, talking with town administration going forward was they felt there was a need to have a command officer outside the union, and that traffic is a real priority. So one of the warrant articles you see is a transfer of $21,000 from the fire chief study to our line. The study for the police department is not going to be $21,000. I can guarantee you that. It's going to be significantly less than that. I'm only doing staffing. I understand that my policies need to be updated, so I don't need someone to tell me that. I know that. But I do want someone to come before you. They're going to provide a presentation to say what the number is. And all I can say is it probably will be a big number, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to sit down and work on and implement over time. It's not something we're going to be able to do all at once. We realize that at the police department.
Did you have a follow-up, Beth?
Yeah, so the fire chief seemed to be very happy with all the recruits he was able to get in terms of their quality and caliber. Do you feel like the police department has that kind of caliber out there waiting to come to Westborough
Well, there are a
too?
lot of people who are going to want to come work for Westborough. There's going to be no problems filling those
Excellent.
positions.
Okay.
No
Mr. Roche?
problem.
Let's see if I got the numbers right. It looks to me like we're increasing our head count by about 7%. We got 29, we're going to add 2, that's in a ballpark of 7%.
Okay?
That's step one, and then step two, we're doing we're going to do a study of staffing needs. And
Yes.
if we went to the Massachusetts average, which I think you said was 2.4
2.4.
per thousand, 19,000 people, kind of round numbers, you'd have to add 16 police officers.
I can tell you that, I spent upwards of 20 years in the town of Auburn. Very similar. We have more, I would say, high-end, office park buildings, things of that nature. They had the Auburn Mall, or we still have our retail. I can tell you there are 16,000 people, same hotel setup, bank setup, lots of coffee shops. They got 41 people, 16,000 residents. It's their daytime population that drives that number. It's those that transient crime that's coming in because of the setup. We got 495, the Mass Pike, Route 9. You've built it, they're coming. With that, some are not good, some is bad, and we have to deal with that. And as I said before, I'm concerned with our staffing level. I'm not going to cut to the chase. It's a huge concern to me. We're going to do the best we can with what we have. It's a fantastic group, a talented group, honored to be a part of this organization. But I'd be remiss, it would be a crime for me not to bring this to your attention and to try to do something about it.
It changes, the reason our voters have been accustomed to approximately 2 or 3% increases per year for quite some time, and you're implying that the police department budget increases are going to be 10, 15% per year for a couple of years. Our voters are not prepared for that.
I understand that, and no is no, and I'm going to come back and ask.
I can't argue with you about the need, but we're really going to need to do a good job of educating and preparing the voters that they understand, because the impact is, that's a pretty massive impact.
And that's why the lieutenant and I prepared this for you. I'm speaking to anyone that wants to speak with me. I'll be, at the civic function tomorrow evening. I'm trying to educate people and let them know, where the Westborough Police Department is, and where I think the assessment company that comes in to look at our staffing level, I think they're going to agree with me. I think they may say we need more than what I'm proposing, but we have to start somewhere, and this is the now.
Mr. Driscoll, yes.
Chief, you and I met this afternoon,
Yes.
and I kind of told you what kind of questions are going to be coming. The survey is going to tell us what you think, and Hank has said 16, and that's, just a function of numbers. What do you think? And the second part of the question is, this survey will be done before the next meeting, right?
That's my understanding. If this warrant article passes, I'll contact the company on the 16th. We have identified a vendor, and it was the lowest bid on it, and quite frankly, I think qualified company to do this. So I would hope, because it's so limited in scope to just the personnel, we're not having to look at everything else that was done at the fire department, that it should be done in a couple of months.
Okay, I'm going back to my first question. What do you think?
I honestly, I think right now, just to stop the bleeding where we're at, I'd like to see the department at 36. From there, it's going to be a long-term goal. Like you said, there's only so much. But I really think if we can get to 36, here's the other thing that it's been really, when we move back downtown, right now, one of my admins is out on FMLA, and the walk-in clients that we get here, never mind when we get down here, well, we're going to have to talk about at some point, a station officer. Someone should be manning that station where we're closing the doors. I mean, people call me up yelling at me, we went to the police station, no one's there. Well, we are here, we're out on the road, and the fire department dispatch is available, but that's going to be an issue, especially when we have certain prisoners that we have to watch that are suicidal or any of those things. So this is one of the reasons why, too, where we're going with the call volume, the walk-in volume, I get it would make sense, to have a station officer. Now, that's long term down the road. It's something we're going to have to do, whether it's senior work-off program, we're going to have to work out something, to address some of those concerns. But staffing is a major issue.
Okay, Mr. Wells.
Can I just follow up from
You
that?
have a follow-up, Jim?
Please.
Yep.
The overtime, those are all paid details.
The overtime?
Yeah, the overtime increase that you're looking for here,
That's not for pay details.
it's not for paid
No,
details.
pay details come from private companies usually. The only details that we would pay for is the block party, town events, the elections. That comes out of the police department budget. Pay details, that does not come out of the police department budget. That's paid by private vendors. In some cases, obviously, the school department, if there's a game, they'll pay for detail officers. But beyond that, it's usually private contractors that you're seeing paying.
Okay.
Because that's a pass-through.
I'm sorry?
That's a pass-through. We get revenue for the expense, it disappears.
So basically, you get 10% administrative fees. For instance, we have one detail at a company in town. It's probably $12,000 a week, every week. You're getting 10% of that for doing no work. The town money's coming in for that. I upped the cruiser rates for a couple of reasons for details. We're getting off track a little bit, but one is it costs a little bit more, but to help obviously show the town money's coming in to pay for this detail software. So instead of having the sergeant go in for 2.5 hours, going down a list, calling people, we plug it into the computer. It sends everyone out through a bid system. So you can be on the side of the road directing traffic, that car that hits the pole and goes on his iPad or his iPhone, boom, while he's still directing traffic instead of leaving the scene. So those are things that we're trying to do to show there are revenue sources that are coming in to the town because of pay details, that it's just my admin is the one processing it all, and obviously accountant's office.
Okay, is that it? And Gary, did you ask for a question?
Jim got the question.
Oh, Jim covered you. And then I've got Andrew down here. I'll come back to you, Hank. Yep.
So, Chief, so when we think about the averages, I mean, when we talk about Westborough not being an average, we're above average, and that's a wonderful thing. But if we get beyond saying that, not every town needs the sort of level of attention and police support is the wrong term. But obviously, Lawrence, 20,000 people in the part of Lawrence is not 20,000 people in Westborough. So how do we talk about when we think of the police, the security, the protection, when we need bodies to do work, what are we seeing that's changing in this town that requires, because we all still feel safe, most of us, I think, still feel safe, and when you get the town people getting together, I think most of them are probably going to say they feel safe. What is changing that you're seeing that warrants the additional people? Because calls and people walking in, that doesn't need to be a police officer there, I would imagine. It could be somebody not necessarily police. So again, I guess I'm getting to, what are you seeing that requires police at a significantly greater level that pulls us closer to the average?
We're busy. We're busy. Call volume's on the rise. I mean, just look at today. Today alone, we had one call completely shut us down. We had multiple accidents today. We have alarm calls. We have medical calls. Like I said, and I don't want to frighten anyone, but the Detective Bureau's been extremely busy. We've had several serious assaults on people in town that they've had to deal with. Like I said, had a house break where we had a dog, maybe on scene, could have had a different outcome. People breaking into cars on Route 9. We had Millbury and Marlborough's K9. This is all recently. We're busy. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of accidents, motor vehicle related calls for service, larceny, scams. I mean, it's Westborough. You're a hub. It's a town that brings a lot of people in, whether it be shoplifting. I had an issue the other, we had an officer driving around with a prisoner for an hour because we know where to bring them. We're going to Southborough to book. And if it's a female, they don't house the females. We have to go to Hopkinton. Hopkinton, their Middlesex district, clerk won't bail them from there. We got to go pick them up, bring them back to Southborough. So when we get down to Forbes, things will be a little bit better. but I can tell you we're busy.
Yes, point taken. And do you have a follow-up, Andrew? And then Beth.
Only that I'm hearing busy, but I'm sure that other people before were thinking it was busy. So I guess I would be curious to see trending figures.
I can't tell you the methodology from past administrations.
Okay.
I can only tell you from me looking at this, from being a police officer for over 30 years now, working in two communities very similar to Westborough that have grown, I mean, leaps and bounds. When I was in Shrewsbury, when I was in Auburn, we grew. Why did we grow? The town grew. Westborough has grown. You're talking about 750 units at the state hospital. So if we're talking about 2.4 officers per 1,000, we need 3 cops just for that. I mean, we're going to have issues there. We're not prepared. So I need to be forward-thinking. I mean, we've got apartment complexes here that weren't here years ago. Like I said, if you look at our school population, you look at just the incident we dealt with at Fountainhead, all the folks that were in that building, they call for service. They need help sometimes. And we want to be able to provide that service, which is why we're adding specialty assignments, why I have someone in the K-9 Academy right now, is to make sure that in times of crisis, Westborough is more than prepared. You know, we have all kinds of trainings coming up, specialty assignments coming up, and I think it brings it back to the department. I've got an officer on Semlec SWAT now. He's going to bring all that training back to the town of Westborough, so we're going to be ahead of the curve when something, God forbid, happens. And that's what it's about. It's not just about where all our calls are. It's being prepared for when the calls come in. And that's why I believe, we should definitely be having at least 4 officers on the road on days of 4 to 12s. And right now, quite frankly, we still run short on midnights. You know, we roll the dice, and you hope it's not busy. You know, but once we get back in Forbes and we have our own lockup and we have our own station back at home, I can't bring suspects, to the office park. I can't book people there. It limits us. It's telling our officers, you know what, don't make that arrest. Don't find another way around this because it's going to tie us up out of town and we're not going to be able to answer calls.
Ms. Bloomberg had an additional question?
Yeah, how are you doing on things like finding grants, other sources? Like, I mean, I love the idea that like the fire chief found a way to, it's not the full thing,
Yeah.
but we've got.
I've applied for the COPS FAST Grant. Lieutenant Minardi has applied for FAST Grant. We're just not going to get it. I apply for it every year, and Uxbridge and Westboro is much better off than Uxbridge. It's the Holyoaks, the Fitchburgs. We're just not going to get it. As far as grants go, the RAD, Rape Aggression Defense Training, we sent 6 officers to training. Detective Sergeant Hallis set that up. We had 4 officers from Las Vegas, Nevada that came in. The lieutenant talks about sending people across the country. That's what I'd like to be able to do. But long story short, how do we buy that equipment? $3,000 for that equipment. Digital Credit Union gave us a grant. I'm using a gift account to purchase certain things outside the budget. Lieutenant alluded to asset forfeiture. We're utilizing asset forfeiture for different pieces of equipment and training that I believe should be in the budget. And eventually those monies will dry up. We applied for the Stanton Foundation grant. That's up to $43,000 for the K-9 program. There should be no cost to the taxpayer for that K-9 program other than oil and gas for the car and those type of things, and overtime, for the officer when he gets called out and different things and training. But if there's a grant out there, yeah, we're going to apply for it. We're going to try, to acquire any and all funding we can.
Okay, great. Yes, Paul?
That amount, if it was annualized, what is it, $500,000? Because that's partial year, right?
Yes, if this passes, I'll get you that exact number as I develop the the next budget, for July 1.
And the increase in wages is for 2 positions?
So yes, there'll be 2 positions added. I know it seems a little confusing.
And if that's a partial number and it's 2 positions, yeah, I need to understand.
So you're probably 4 months
Annualized.
short. You're 4 months short. So the expense side, that's not going to really change at all. That expense is to outfit the officers as
Yep.
well in that $12,000 line that I would just move that same number forward next year.
Okay.
But yeah, you would see the salary that would rise
So
a little bit, because don't forget the deputy chief's position, that increase is already factored. It would just be really the patrol officer positions.
And
So
the
it's a
promotions?
fully loaded position apparently then,
Yes.
right? Is that the
That's
the
everything that
employee
will
plus
take-
the benefits plus?
No, that's not benefits.
Okay.
No, that's just police department side. That comes out of a different account.
All right, I'm going to, Hank, yes.
Yeah, Chief, if I just clarify the numbers, you indicated you've got about 5,000 hours of overtime a year. You indicated a couple of thousand hours for training, a couple of thousand hours for other things. If I do the math, that says that's about 2 equivalent positions, right? 5,000 hours is about 2 head count. you're adding 2 headcount. I'm under the impression that the 2 headcounts you're adding are not going to reduce the overtime budget.
They may a little bit, because we'll have added person in the DB, and we have an added officer, so a good point is vacation season.
Yep.
So when vacation season comes, a traffic officer may have to take a sector, and that'll be a savings in money. So yeah, it will help a little bit, but this is really just to stop the bleeding.
Okay, other questions, and we're still on the first of several warrant articles here, so other questions that will help you clarify your position on this warrant article, Ms. Blumberg.
When you said, earlier you said that there was going to be a new person and then there'd be some promotions. Do those promotions also get reflected in that increase in
Yes.
wages? Okay, thank you.
Great,
Yes.
and Andrew, yep.
So when you talked about the calls and the people who walk in, I'd imagine the calls, the people that are handling those calls aren't police officers, they'd be the whatever the call center is. But the people walking in, is there not a way to stand up resources to help answer those calls? And I realize I'm not talking about on patrol.
I have 2 administrative assistants, and they
Yep.
deal with the walk-ins right now, for the most part, unless someone needs to file a report with an officer.
Okay.
And one of them is out, so that's been very taxing on us.
Okay.
Okay, other questions?
But it doesn't have to be a police officer. We don't have dispatch in the police station anymore, and we won't, so that's who would handle that in the past.
Yep. Paul, please, yep.
How was that overtime that we were budgeting a lot less than we were spending? Where was it coming from? In the past?
I can only tell you how things happen, but let's say, for instance, I have an opening, or someone goes to military leave, or, someone's injured on duty in my past, funding came from outside my budget. So let's say someone goes to Milford. I've had several officers go to the Milford Police Department, and I don't fill the position for 6 months. And
So it's been just by chance,
we
things
ran real
have
short.
worked out.
Yeah, that's the only way I can see it, Either that, or you just, when you run out of, I'm prepared. We, putting the extra money on, that 100,000, yeah, I pretty much killed that. There's not much left. I can tell you that if it doesn't pass, without that needed overtime that's in this warrant article, I'm gonna have to make some real drastic decisions, and I will. We're going to do the best we can. I'll shut down the DB. I'll shut down school resource. I'll work like I'm working now, 12, 16 hours a week. I'll just be covering patrol shifts, answering calls. I don't mind doing police work, My lieutenants will do the same thing. My sergeants will do the same thing. I believe that the staffing levels need to stay where they're at now, and I'm going to do whatever I can to do that, and patrol answering the calls comes first.
Additional questions on this article? Thank you. The increase in expenses is related to training?
It's related to all the above. Training,
Okay,
it's
yeah.
related to
Right.
equipment.
Yeah.
So when an officer goes, for instance, when we went to RAD training, I can't teach the class to the public, and I need the suit, I need the equipment for it. I didn't budget for that, so I utilized basically a gift account.
I just know that a well-trained police force is critical. We have fewer problems in Massachusetts with our police
You are so correct. It's mission critical.
Yes, and it makes all the difference. I appreciate that. All right, so let's take a look at, let's go on to number 8. This is Police Department Operations and Staffing Study, which we have alluded to already. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's basically what I talked about. MRI, they came in with the lowest bid, and this passes, the 16th, I'm going to give them a call and get going. And hopefully within a couple of months, I'll have some clear-cut answers, and then we can start having the conversations.
So when that, I guess I have an opening question. But Mr. Driscoll, did you have a question on this article first? No. This study will come back and explain to the community in detail what the police do on a daily basis, right? What
yes.
police work is, how much we can get done based on...
They're going to come in, they'll have graphs, charts, they're going to put on a presentation.
Yeah.
Hopefully at least at the Board of Selectmen's meeting. So you'll be hearing directly from them. That's part of the quote.
And they do some of the benchmarking? I mean, we do a lot of benchmarking in other departments to compare
I
ourselves to
can't,
other
until I
communities.
meet with them, until I know that we're doing this,
Okay.
I don't know,
Okay.
exactly what they're, I can just tell you that this is the company that did the fire department study.
Yep.
So they have a lot of our data, so I think it'll be a quick turnaround
It'd be
time.
very interesting to look at what are positive performance metrics in a police department and where can we improve.
And I'm sure they'll be able to answer all those questions.
And Paul, yes.
The fire department one, they had comparable communities, which were selected by the fire chief, And I guess I'd like to suggest that there be an objective way of pulling, if there are comparable communities, that be some kind of an objective way of
Yeah,
pulling
we
them.
want to compare apples to apples, I
Right.
totally agree.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
saying that-
I don't want to be compared to Boylston, you know?
Right.
You know, I don't want to be compared to Grafton, quite frankly, who on paper has 18,000 people. Two totally different communities when you look at the commercial makeup of Westborough versus Grafton.
And Hank?
The article doesn't specify a dollar value.
What it was Chief Purcell had $21,000 left in his article, so I believe they were going to say $21,000. What I'm telling you folks is from the research that I've done, it will be significantly lower than that.
Lower than 21?
So there'll be
Okay.
money turned back into town. I mean, I'll tell you flat out, it's $5,500.
Okay.
It's strictly staffing. I don't need them to look at anything else right now, staffing. I tried to keep it, I know I'm asking for a lot, so I'm trying to be as conservative as I can on the other end.
So we transfer that from free cash, but a
So
fair
whatever
amount
was
of it
in
would
the
go back
chief's,
to free
whatever was
cash?
in the chief's article for his staffing study, for his assessment on the fire department,
Yep.
that money will come over to the police department, but I can tell you I won't be using all of it.
And this,
Okay,
okay. All right,
In my understanding, there was $21,000 left.
okay. And anything else on Article 8 on the study? Then you have Article 9, which is police department time owed payback. That seems very straightforward. That's an obligation.
Yeah, I have a sergeant who's retiring,
Yeah.
and he's entitled to that funding. I just don't have it in the budget, as you know.
Yeah.
So that's what that warrant article is. It's contractual.
Okay. Okay.
Question.
Yep. Mr. Driscoll.
The comp time, what is that based on? The last salary he made or the beginning salary when he's starting to be compensated?
So there's so many hours that they can accrue with comp time. He has the maximum amount of hours. It's not uncommon. We see this happen. Comp time is basically in lieu of taking pay, we owe him that money. So he didn't take pay, he took compensatory time off.
I understand that, but the rate at which we pay him for the compensated
Correct, time and a
time
half.
is at the higher rate as compared to when he might have taken it 5 years ago.
Well, yes, with contractual obligations, yeah, of course, as you get raises.
Thank you.
Other questions on Article 9? Yes, Paul?
So when we see comp time, you referred to comp time in one of the earlier charts, and I kind of saw that as, oh, that's a benefit, it didn't cost us, but it ends up costing us just later if they
It can, if they don't use it.
don't take it, right?
Yeah, and it's per the contract, he can accrue up to so many hours.
Like, maybe you don't have the exact number, but
I can give you the exact number.
Paul?
Do you know what the exact number is that they can accrue in comp time?
They can accrue up to 132 hours.
so lifetime?
That's the max they can ever have. It carries over from year to year,
Okay.
so that's the max. But the figure I threw out earlier was the 2,000 hours of comp time that was awarded last year. That was in lieu of pay. So if we had paid that out, it would have cost us about another $100,000. So in essence, you can make the argument that we should be budgeting $250,000 to $300,000 in overtime to cover our complete overtime liability. Because if we don't know from year to year how much comp time people are going to take instead of pay. So it's kind of a shell game.
And the more they take, the more officers you need to man the
Yeah,
station.
it's a drastic savings though to the department, over the year.
Right.
So that's like, and I think I heard you say the 100 and whatever hours it is all contractual.
Yes.
So the cost there, Paul, is the difference between when he is earning it and when he takes it at the end. There could be an hourly rate difference.
Ms. Blumberg has another question.
Yeah, so are people not, I mean, just speculation, please. Are people not taking their comp time because you're asking so much of them, there's just no time for them to take it?
No, they take it. It's
Okay.
just when you have officers that have this contractual, they're retiring, it takes a while for you take your retirement checks, and they look at it like this is,
It's just an extra bonus on their
it's a
system.
bonus. I worked there for 32 years, and
It's negotiated.
I accrued this time. I mean, they take their comp time, and you're right, they're very good employees where they try not to create overtime with it, We're trying not to pay twice. So we've got a great staff.
Other questions on Article 9? Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you
Chief,
very
and
much.
Thank you for your
If
work.
If anyone has any further questions, you know where to reach me.
right.
I want to thank Lieutenant Bernardi for all his hard work on this. Lieutenant McLeod is here as our backup, which we always like to see. And like I said, I can be reached anytime if you need further clarification.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening. All right, next we are on to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. We have Bruce Treader here and Don Byrne. And our warrant articles under consideration here are Articles 17, 18, and 19. If you want to go to your article.
That wasn't very good.
That's
Didn't
an-
happen
Is that a
before.
drum
What
roll?
happened?
Drum roll,
Hang on a
please.
second, Let's see.
17, 18, and 19.
Oh, I know why. This thing, tension on it pulled the plug out. Pulled the plug on us, almost.
Okay, all right.
Sorry about that, James.
So Article 17 is going to be trail construction from Sassacus? Sassacus Drive to Meadow Road. And then Article 18 is an easement for surveying and trail design, and Article 19 are trail easements. Are you going to walk us through these one by one, or?
It's going to be a general discussion. We're going to
Okay.
go into detail on 17 because 17, is an actual construction article, and so people would want to know more about it.
Okay,
The other two will explain in context as we go through the slides.
okay, all right. Take it away.
Thought we would start with saying what has been spent, because I've been hearing all kinds of numbers and claims of how much money has been spent, and actually, this is the real breakdown of the funds. There was a slight counting mistake. The 17,222 was originally supposed to have come out of the 35,000 below it.
Okay, so this is spending to date on this project
Yes.
over what time period?
Over more than 5 years.
More than 5 years, this is total spending over 5 years,
Yeah, this is the total
okay.
spending of the project.
Okay,
And you'll see that it's not really that much money has been spent. And for actual trail construction, the tree clearing is the only item we have spent money on, really, at this point.
and the source of the money is the open space reserve account for which this qualifies?
For
or
the
no?
surveying, the open space reserve account was used.
Okay.
Surveying
Yeah,
and the like. For the actual construction, that cannot come out of the open space reserve account, so that came out of a raise and appropriate free cash article.
so your first figure of 94,000 and came out of open space, and
Space
your
reserve.
third figure of 35,000 came out of the open space reserve?
Yes.
Okay,
And there was a $32,000 article in 2016
okay,
for building the trail from East Main to Lyman.
Okay.
We have not finished the trail for multiple reasons.
so I'm going to take it back to the top. What does BWALT, for our viewers' information, what does that stand for? BW?
Boston Worcester Airline Trail.
So
which
this is specifically the bicycle pedestrian trail, not the
Yeah.
full mission of the
No,
bicycle
this is-
pedestrian?
This is just
Okay.
the
The one
multi-use
project.
trail,
Okay.
the multi-use trail that we're building in
Okay.
town.
So that project is a project within a larger committee with a larger mission,
Right.
correct? Okay,
Our committee has also been encouraging pedestrian with the pedestrian flashers you see around town. We have given some input for the sidewalk plan.
Okay.
We are doing safe routes to school, where we are encouraging and we're working to expand the number of schools that we're getting children to start walking to school, and trying to get some active, what are called virtual school buses, which is basically parents leading kids and having an adult or whatever supervise, and the kids will meet at a place and walk to school every week,
Okay.
at least one day. So there's a number of other programs we're doing. We've been limited on some things because things like the sidewalks have been mostly transferred to the assistant town manager in the past.
okay. All right, so what you're showing us here, though, is the one project, and
Is
that's
for
what, okay.
since all three articles were involved with the multi-use trail, we thought we'd break down what had been spent
Okay,
for
thank
the
you.
trail.
Yep,
Just so people know, because there's been a lot of discussion of sidewalks lately. This was actually a Jim Malloy piece, but it breaks down how much money has been appropriated. I said spending, but actually, since we still have 35,000 in the design funds, it's really appropriated, that we, versus the same time frame for sidewalks.
So the blue is sidewalks
Walks.
and the red is the
Is the
the trail?
multi-use trail.
Okay. Okay.
And to expand on that, the town's sidewalk plan, the latest revised sidewalk plan, does recognize the multi-use trail as being part of the pedestrian or sidewalk effort. And the green line you see across, it goes from near Hockomock Pond over to 495 with several side pieces. Yes?
When you do this for town meeting, the green line doesn't show up that well. Pick a different color, please.
I'll try to get it changed or something.
Something,
I put this thing mainly because this was actually Jim's, I swiped Jim's slide, so
Yep.
I'll do something to fix it though.
Yeah, or a laser pointer would
Yeah.
help there too.
Right.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, the actual project, Article 17, we applied for last January, and we recently got notified that we have received a grant for $49,950 from the state of Massachusetts for the Recreational Trails Grant Program. That would be to build the trail from Sassacus Drive to Meadow Road. And this is a overview of the main work items, and this was actually part of the grant proposal that we put together. The grant is basically paying for building the bridge across the Assabet River. And bridges are never cheap, and the town is matching that by building the trail. And Article 17 is asking for the full match, but we do not expect we will need to spend the full match on constructing the trail. Some of this is going to be volunteer labor. We have had offers, we're already in discussions with paving companies and other people who may step up to give us some free work, just like we had some free work on our experiment over on East Main and Lyman. I'm talking to a tree company that there's a program that they do yearly. They do contributions to communities and other things, and so we may get tree work done. We're looking at a number of things on this, including the fact that we're putting in next week for a $10,000 grant to reduce our grant match by $10,000 from another organization. But because we won't know for sure for a few months on that, we're asking for the full amount. We do not expect to spend the full amount.
Okay. All right.
So, breaking it down, the state pays the $49,950 for the bridge, the abutments, plus a supervisor to install the bridge. The bridge can be done with supervision, can be done by volunteers.
Okay.
The town's doing $56,994 for the half mile of trail that we're building. And these are the major breakdowns. The biggest items are going to be volunteer labor. We're expecting around $10,000. Clearing, stump removal, and excavation is about $17,000. And material for the treadway, again, some of this may come from DPW, is about $22,000.
Okay. Do you mind taking a question?
I don't
But
mind.
you're
Yes,
asking-
Hank.
the numbers are confusing. You're asking for $56,000?
Yes.
In addition to that, you're expecting these donations, or you're going to have these additional expenditures, or?
No, if the $56,000 is to do a total coverage so that we can tell the state that the town is committed to matching as we had proposed in the grant, 100%. We do not expect to spend all that money.
So the $56,994 is a total of your 9,000, your 17,000, your 20,
And plus some
22,000.
miscellaneous.
Because it
Okay.
doesn't add up.
Will you, do you want to finish, or do you want to take questions while you're
I'm
presenting?
going to take questions while,
Mr. Driscoll?
The grant
yes.
usually specifies exactly what the grant is going to pay for. Can you give me a little more detail on that?
The grant is paying for a 12-foot wide, 30-foot long wooden bridge the materials for the abutments for the bridge, and 4 days of a professional framing carpenter to supervise the construction of the abutments and the installation of the bridge.
What happens if it takes more than 4 days?
We don't expect it will, but part of the reason we put in for the $56,994 instead of dropping, like, for instance, the $9,980 that we know we're going
That you'll
to
find
get out of
volunteers
volunteer
for,
is
yeah.
to have the buffer, that slack.
Contingency there, yeah. Mrs. Bloomberg, yep.
Okay, so I think you guys I missed something in that. So the volunteer labor at $29.88 per hour is, you're using volunteer labor, but if you don't get enough volunteers, then you'll pay people $29.88, or the volunteers are getting paid?
No, the volunteers are, for every hour, for instance, that I sit there and do paperwork, or go out there and cut brush, or as Hank has been with me on trail projects for the charm bracelet, if I have 5 Boy Scouts out cutting brush, the town is getting a credit of $29.88 per.
For the work done?
For the work done, as part of the matching to the
Against
state. So
Okay, so you're not paying them, you're just taking credit for them?
we're getting
at that
credit
rate.
for it. All work is being
Lovely.
credit. That's the minimum wage. If we have Carl Baldoff, the town engineer, who do some work for us, it's at his full salary.
Okay,
That gets credited against the match for
Yeah.
the.
but we have to pay him?
Right, but in other words, but if he's being paid, he's a salaried employee,
It's a
so
sunk cost.
but if we're saying that
Okay.
if he,
It's not a new cost.
if he does
Oh, okay.
5 hours of work for us,
Yeah, it's
That-
an in-kind from the town in a way.
Okay, so this is how you're building your contribution to the match?
right.
And Andrew, did you have a question? Oh, I thought your hand was up. No? Paul? Yep.
Then what happens, so that money is credited, where does it go? How's
We're,
it?
right at the moment, we're keeping the money because we're assuming the next project, and we'll use it that way. We are willing to accept, if somebody feels strongly, a amendment to return any monies that are done.
Just a minute.
We are not one way or the other, but.
I think you'd be obligated to return it, wouldn't you? Rather than
Technically,
spending it
I
on something else.
believe you can only do the work
Yeah, I
that's
think it,
specified in the
actually,
article.
yeah, I think it will be, yeah,
You're-
right.
mean,
I believe in this
technically,
case,
you're not
yes.
supposed to spend money on things that are
That
out of
are
the
not
scope of the
in the
article.
scope of the article, so yes, it would become.
You probably
yeah.
want to be careful that when you speak at town meeting to say, if there's money left over at the end of the project, it goes back to free cash, because you.
Goes back to the town,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe it's actually phrased that way in the, the article, but
No,
it's.
well, I mean, the article doesn't govern, the law
Yeah, okay,
governs. and
right,
the
yeah, so
law
we'll go
is,
back to free cash, yes.
If town meeting appropriates money, it appropriates it for a purpose. You're not allowed to use it for some other
Okay.
purpose.
Point taken.
I'm still, I haven't had to deal with town finances at this
Yeah.
level before, so,
Yeah, welcome aboard. We're
Yeah.
we're on the learning curve here, too. All right, Terry, did you have a question?
Very quick. Okay, so the total cost of this is,
is a little over $100,000.
and the state's going to give us 50% of that in
Yes,
cash as
about.
long as we can match it.
Yeah.
And we get full credit matching, whether it's in kind or money that we put out.
Exactly. And so we're going to do as much in kind as we can.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do as much as we can to raise money from other sources
Yep.
so that we aren't spending the town's money.
So, and I know, it's allowable to have a buffer in there, but what would be your guess in the actual cash outflow? I mean, we're
I'm
looking-
hoping, part of the reason we did this this way is traditionally these grants, when you get them, and the grants started today, or once the meeting. Yeah, the clock starts ticking. Traditionally, you have 27 months. This year, the state had 2 pots of money. We got out of the pot of money, we have to do it in 9 months.
Okay,
So
okay.
because of that, we put in, I otherwise would have made that article a smaller amount of money because, but if we don't spend the thing and have it done basically by June 30th, we lose the 50,000, even though we may have already spent it
Yeah,
because it's a
use it-
reimbursement
yeah,
plan.
use
So
it or lose it
we were
situation.
being-
Yeah.
I was being extremely conservative. I hope that our number is going to be more like 30,000 of real town expenditures for,
Okay, but that's basically, to my questions, is that's the timing insurance, if you will.
it's the timing assurance is why we're doing it the way it is, because we got surprised and Jim Malloy and a number of in his last 6 weeks, and I spent a bunch of time deciding that we were going to do this or not do this, and with a lot of input, because we were told, congratulations, you have the 50,000. Now here's the shoe
cash
drop,
is 9
and
months.
we want you to do it in 9 months, not 27.
So Paul, I saw another question here, and Sean, did you have a question too? No, Paul, okay.
So if you can, let's say, either you run out of time or you get it done a lot more economically, the volunteers are able to work a lot faster or whatever, so you can only justify, let's say you only 40,000 even with the credits, does that reduce the 49 by the same amount?
No, it turns out that the match was the law that created this grant requires a 20% match. So as long as we spent at least 10,000, we're going to be matching the whole amount for the bridge. But we had to put in a budget for the whole thing in the grant, so.
Yes.
The maximum grant was 50,000. So we couldn't ask for more even though there was a 20% match requirement.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Mr. Rauch?
Approximate, I mean, you're building a trail across the town longitudinally from one end of town to the other. About how many miles of trail are you going to build when you're done?
Okay, that's actually going to be, sorry, that's going to be a slide coming up a little bit, not with the actual mileage, exact mileage, but a map. But the main piece we are concentrating on is the MBTA station at 495. That's exactly 5 miles of trail.
So,
to go to the Southborough border, it depends on whether or not we're actually pushing the state to give us a tunnel under 495. If we do that, it's another 0.8 of a mile to the Southborough border. Otherwise, it's 1.6 miles. And then there's pieces both to get to Northborough to go west and Northborough to go north. The piece to go north also means we get up to the state hospital, where both between the development and things like the rec center. So the total mileage of trail is going to be around 9 miles of trail in town.
so I'm assuming the current focus is 5 miles. We're spending about $100,000 a mile. Could be as much as 9 miles. We could be looking at investing, and it's not including state money.
Excuse me. This is a unique and expensive situation, because most of the trail we're building on the old trolley line that, if you've ever gone through Walk Up Robinson or other things, exist. It's a flat, smooth bed where we built it with East Main. This is a place where there is no right-of-way. So we're building raw trail. It's like building a 1-lane gravel or stone dust road. And we are building the trail, out of raw earth.
So I mean, other places you're going to be able to build it a lot cheaper?
Yes.
So you're going to go over existing roads or existing...
We're going to go over the old trolley line, which is already graded. And for instance, if we had completed the work on the piece from East Main to Lyman, it would basically, we had estimated for that, the overall cost would have probably been around $10,000 or less, plus the electronic flashers for the ends. So, and those are only when you have a busy road that we're going to have an electronic flasher. So,
Did you get your question answered, Hank?
and that's a third of a mile for $10,000. So,
Okay.
we're talking Holliston, Mass. built the last 3 miles of its trail, and that trail was open and people were riding it. And they built the last 3 miles at $35,000 a mile on a similar situation where they had an existing road bed. So we're looking to keep it at those rates. This one is unique because it's more expensive, but
So
you're
tackling the more difficult job
we're
right now.
tackling the more difficult piece to begin with.
With the grant picking up.
It's also the bridge. We got to cross the river on this side.
Yeah.
I netted the bridge out when I did the computation.
All right, Sean, did you have a question?
It was answered, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? So my suggestion at this point is when you bring this before the committee, you need to open with a value proposition for the
Yes.
community. what is the asset that is coming into the community? What is its, whatever, extrinsic, intrinsic value? That's good background before we start
Yes,
looking at
I
the
may reverse some of these. I've got a
Yeah.
few slides. Let me quickly go through this, which is part of why this actually explains, as I say, is the map that shows what we're building here, and the boxes show the phases. We are building, the grant, Article 17 is for 1A. 1B, we are looking at whether it's going to be funded by the town, because it's mainly fill and grading, and depending on if we can find if we can find somebody to contribute much of the fill and grading, we will probably fund it ourselves. But part of the reason we're asking for that design, Article 18, is because to up the design costs is we are trying to get some significant design work done for pieces 2 and piece 3. Because the state of Massachusetts is going to announce on November 1, and but those of us who are in the community are beginning to know about it, a new program called Mass Trails, and there's going to be grants of over $100,000 per year, $5 million the first year. And the current schedule is that they're going to announce the grant on November 1, and they expect the grant applications to be completed somewhere in the end of January, beginning of February timeframe, 3 months later. Well, I can tell you that every grant program like that the state has ever done, they've had the situation of, oh, we didn't get enough applications. Mm-hmm. And if the grant application is well done and you can show you have your design, we're almost guaranteed to get that 100,000. And in fact, for Complete Streets, which is a program for paying for sidewalks and similar things in town, which we are not a member of, they actually went back to a number of communities and said, you asked for $275,000. If we gave you $395,000, could you spend the other money?
Do we have applications going into Complete Streets as well as this?
No, we have not applied for Complete Streets.
But that's another opportunity.
That's another opportunity for funding.
Right.
That could be
This
used
is an
for-
opportunity we're pursuing
and
now.
the opportunity for Complete Streets would pay for sidewalks, which is something that people have been asking about. It would pay for bike lanes that people have asking about. It could pay for the trail, but it's a different program.
Let's wait. Do you have a question on this point?
Well, I have a question on the Complete Streets, which is just, do we just have a lack of people who are focused on that because you guys are focused on the bicycle trail?
Complete Streets has to be done either through town meeting or Board of Selectmen.
It's a different.
And it has to have the support of DPW, town engineer, and town planner.
Okay.
And I tried to push for it, and the committee tried to push for it. We got some pushback, and so we relented for a bit, and we think now with the heightened request for sidewalks that it's a time to bring up that discussion again.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of energy around it now.
Yes.
So I don't want to interrupt you or stop you. You have some more to
Well, just I
present
wanted
to us? Okay.
I don't know if these, and I'd like your opinion if I could do a very quick. These were 4 slides that I actually do when I go to towns, including I did it this town, but for almost nobody was here. You were asking about the economic value. There is a program in the country called Bike-Friendly Business. You actually have to pay money to apply for it. You have to do a bunch of paperwork. But here's a few of the businesses that felt that it was worthwhile enough because it helped attract employees in a way. To be a bike-friendly business, you have to explain how your employees can get to work. And most of these companies actually have policies that say they want to locate their facilities in towns or in office parks in particular where there are multi-use trails. A few specifics. Domino's Pizza is a classic. They actually came down to, they had 3 office parks around Indianapolis they were deciding where they were going to build. One of them had a multi-use trail. That's the one that won. That community won because they had a trail. Oracle Corporation has built trails to over a half mile of trail to connect the local town. Amazon people don't realize it, but Westborough, Marlborough, Northborough, and Southborough actually put in a bid for Amazon. And one of the things they had to do is go into detail of what were their bicycle facilities. And Allegro Microsystems explained that the reason they chose Marlborough when they're moving out of Worcester is because Marlborough had the Assabet River Rail Trail. And if you're asking about the other question people ask when you think economic, it's home values. Every recent study has shown a significant increase in home values, quicker sale. And I can tell you from building the Charm Brace, a number of realtors at first were like, I'm not sure about this thing, and they now all tell me they tack on at least 2% to the price of the house that they're asking for.
Yep.
And
Fear
one
is a
last
wonderful
one.
thing.
And trends, for over 10 years now, if they survey people moving into over 55 communities, which is going to be more and more of what we're seeing, including up at State Hospital. And the number one desired amenity are trails. Millennials, there's a recent study of millennials and moving out of cities, and they expect that 65% of the current millennials will be moving out of Boston in the next 10 years because they're going to have kids, they're going to get married, they're going to be settling down, and they want to go to someplace with good schools. But they've strongly indicated they still want to be able to not have to get in the car to do everything. And finally, we all heard about TOD, the development we have over by the MBTA station. Nationally and internationally now, TOD does not mean transit-oriented development. It now means trail-oriented development. And people are actually building multi-use complexes because they're on multi-use trails. And they're building a mixture of apartments and work and other things, and designing it to reflect the fact that there's a trail there, and so there's bicycle facilities, there's showers for people who jog and walk, or a scooter. They're locally, Caruth is looking to put in a dockless bike share in Westborough and they would be the one doing the backing and the funding because they have gotten enough queries from people about possibly filling a number of their empty office buildings. And I'm sure none of us would object to seeing those office buildings full when our tax levy had more business-oriented.
So there's a bit of your value proposition
So there's a
in
lot
the
of
development
value
trend.
to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Any questions for us?
Let me see, on we saw the budget for the trail construction, and then
we want to refresh the design as well as the money we still have in there for design because we are accelerating it to do a lot more detailed design of those sections, as I said, so that we can apply for the bigger grants.
So did we talk about number 18, the easement surveying and trail design?
That would
tell us a little bit about that?
Basically, that was the one that I was saying we were accelerating the stuff for getting to the, because there's the grant coming up.
All right. So what are you're suggesting that with the easement surveying in place, you're in a better position to go for the new grant money that's coming on in November?
We need to complete some easements here in the next 3 months. The business owners have all been favorably working with us. We're trying to complete that, so we need some money. And then we need to go down and lay out in more detail, just like we did for the grant. We're going to need a bridge here, we're going to need a culvert here, we're going to need X number of feet of fill, and things like this, which does require design money.
And if you know that already, you're in the best position as an early
we have that to be
applicant.
able to put in for the grant. We have to be able to say what we're
That's done. Yes, Ms. Bloomberg. Yep.
So we have a different warrant article about the ADA self-study. How are you guys, are you conscientious about that? Because obviously bicycles are good for people with wheels, but...
I don't know about the ADA self-study, but this trail is built to federal ADA standards throughout.
Excellent. Because that's the thing, making sure that we don't have to go back and fix
this. This will actually be the first handicap accessible trail in Westborough. And there's places where you're going to be nicely in the woods, and it's a beautiful place to be. And we've never had one of those in Westborough, since I'm the guy who built most of the walking trails, so I know in detail. And this is going to be part of that.
Excellent.
Okay. Other questions on the committee?
And then the last article, Article 19, is we try to always respect people, and so there's been people who we went to and said, we want an easement, and they said no. And we went and looked and tried to find a better way. In some cases it was a better way, some ways it was an alternate, Plan B. And that, the easements reflected there are either because there's a Plan B, or when we were negotiating with the people, in some cases they said, well, you put on your Plan B submitted 5 years ago to town meeting that it was going, or 4 years, that it's 30 feet wide. You're building an 18-foot wide trail. Do you really need 30 feet? Can we cut it down to 20 or something? And so just to dot every I and cross every T for the legal guys, we felt going back and saying, rather than referring to the plan for some of these ones that we know was deviating slightly from the plan, to put in just a general, we want an easement across the parcel to make sure is the goal of that article.
And this article is asking for no funding at this point in time. What does this point in time mean?
There will be no money at this article.
Okay.
What this article is purely to do is authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept an easement.
Okay.
And the language that says taking in there is because the town attorney says that if you're doing a acceptance article, you should have taking, including there are what are called friendly takings, where they will not demand money, but it's, for paperwork purposes, it's better for the town to quote formally take it and
I'm seeing language here that says eminent domain and not taking.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain is the term.
Purchase, and there's no money
And
in
it mentions that, it mentions all the options.
Right,
Purchase,
it mentions
gift,
all the options,
eminent.
but it doesn't.
But it doesn't allocate money for it.
Doesn't allocate money for it. This is the.
Okay.
This is the town attorney's recommended standard language.
Okay.
Acquiring easements.
Okay. And Andrew, you have a question?
Sure. The list of contacts here, are these all folks who have pushed back, or?
No, these are ones that, these either reflect places that are working with us and have changed, or they are easements that we have discovered. For instance, we invited a number of trail experts and some state official types and planners about a year and a half ago out to the trail. And when we started at Penta Communications. Well, first thing we talked about was we were talking about going down Park Street. And they looked at it and we said, we want advice. And they said, don't go down Park Street. Well, our plan had said, go down Park Street. So we revised the plan and came up with a new approach that we are hoping to go across the Park Street dental property and then across the Fafford property over to Milk Street, parallel to Route 9, and avoid going down Park Street because Park is a narrow, busy road.
Okay.
So it's things like that where we changed the route, and so we had to add the easements.
I guess I see somebody like Pulte on here, and I worry that there's going to be backlash in other ways.
No,
but this is not a negative.
No, Pulte is already given us their easement plan. Okay. This is so the town, so that we can accept it from them.
Got it.
But that was part of as part of doing the development up at the state hospital. They were required to give us an easement across their piece. They've worked with us. It took a number of planning board meetings, but we've come up with something that everybody is very happy with, and that's basically just gives the selectmen authorization to accept that.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? That's great. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the work, and I appreciate the work you've been doing for a very long time. I would, as you prepare for town meeting, so that all constituencies can embrace this piece of your work, speak to the pedestrian interests. I mean, that was interesting to see that $1.5 million has been spent on sidewalks over the period of time that you've spent a much smaller number, really cultivating, bringing in new resources to realize this
and
particular trail. But that both components are very important, and that's what the community needs to do.
The grants that we go for trails can't be used for sidewalks whatsoever, so we're tapping a different bucket of money.
A different opportunity. That opportunity, it's interesting for me, you mentioned the complete streets are grant opportunities, but you need to coordinate it with other departments like DPW and everyone else. Well, I think trail care, once that becomes an asset for the town, is going to need that kind of coordination from all the other.
Well, I mean,
so we need to learn how to pull those pieces together.
I work, Carl and Jim Robbins joke they get way too many emails from me because they are in the loop on all the work on the trail.
That's great. All right, any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
All right, we are, let me see, about 30 minutes behind. And we were going to move on next to continue warrant article reviews. So let me see, Gary Wells has updated the review worksheet, which keeps us very efficiently focused on moving through the warrant. Does anybody need a paper copy of it? I brought paper copies of Gary's updated worksheet, where he filled in the work we did last time. You're set? I bet you're okay down here?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, there's a couple down there if anybody wants one, and I need one. Okay.
One more.
All right.
Oh, you got that? No, I think we're good. You good there, Paul?
So
we're good, sorry.
I thought I had the latest
I have more.
on my system, but I don't.
You all good?
The latest one.
We heard today that we have our assistant town manager and our treasurer coming in to discuss which articles. It was Marwa, do you have that handy in your notes? They're coming into on
13, 30, 31, and 32.
1, 13, 30, 31, and 32?
Yes.
30, 31, and 32. So those are going to be discussed on Thursday. So I assume that means that we'll put off a vote until after we hear from them on those particular articles. Anyway, let's move through where we are in what we have voted on and what we haven't. I see that we voted down through Article 6.
Except for one.
We voted, except for number 1. Number 1 is still open, and we're going to be discussing that on, or we're going to be getting more information on that on Thursday night. We heard from the police chief tonight, and what I want to go through here is see which ones folks want to discuss or ask questions for or get more information for. If there are any that people are completely satisfied with right now, we'll take votes on that tonight. So does anyone need more information on the police or discussion on the police before we vote? More information, we'll need more information or discussion.
I'd like to discuss it.
Okay, I'm going to pass that over until I'm going to find the ones that we're ready to vote on. So we need discussion on, just a minute. We need discussion on number 7. So we're not quite ready to vote. On Article 8, Police Department Operations, do we need questions or discussions? We're ready to vote?
I am. Yeah, I think
Okay, all right. So on Article number 8, I'm going to jump in here then. Article number 8, let's take a look. Police Department Operations and Staffing Study. Do we have a motion on that?
Oh, do you want to find out what you're going to vote and then just vote them, or do you want to do it in one by one?
One by one.
Do you want to do one? But I was going to go through.
One by one.
It seems like when
We need to have in the record that we voted on each article.
So it seems, yeah, no, I realize that. It seems that if we come across one that no one has any questions on, maybe it makes sense to vote right there. Okay, so number 8 is the Police Department Operations Study. And it looks like we are ready to vote. Do I have a motion on that article? Sure. Terry?
I'll move that we recommend the down so vote.
Okay, and Okay, and second, and so is there discussion? And then all those in favor? I think we have a 9-0 on that one. All right, so now go to number 9. This is Police Department time owed payback. Is there a need for discussion? No, so it looks like we are ready to vote. Do I have a motion?
I'll move that we recommend the town so vote.
Do we have a second? Second for Sean, and there being no discussion. All in favor? Looks like we have a 9-0-0 on this one. All right, if we go to number 10, Youth and Family Services Budget, we have someone coming in to discuss that on October 9th, so we are not ready to vote on that one. Article number 11, this is Conservation and DPW. This is the Sander Pond Dam maintenance.
We've already voted that.
We voted that one, yeah.
There we are.
We voted the next three.
Okay, got it. 9-0, 9-0, 9-0. The next one is the Charter Review Committee Clerical. And are we ready to vote that one, or are there more questions? No questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll recommend that we, I'll move that we recommend the town so vote.
Okay.
Wait, no, we need money mentioned.
No, we
We're
don't.
appropriating.
Free cash.
Funding source is free cash, so we don't need, okay. Okay. So Beth, what was your point? Can I clarify how these motions get made? If it's free cash, we don't have to mention the amount?
We don't necessarily, if the motion is to transfer, I mean, we don't necessarily have to specify every penny. We just recommend the town vote, the vote as the article is written.
But if it is a raise and appropriate, do we need a motion in the minutes?
Should,
amount in.
Okay.
Or borrow.
Okay, all right, thanks for that clarification. All right, do we have a motion? We do have a motion on Article 14, and did we have a second? Beth?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? That's a 9-0-0. All right, the Economic Development Grant for the Economic Development Coordinator there, I don't see an amount here. 15. This is approved to establish, this is approved to establish a revolving account. It's no cost. Anyone need any more information on that? Do I have a motion?
I'll recommend the town so vote. Or I'd move that we recommend the town so vote.
Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
And all in favor? That's 9-0-0. All right. The Transportation Fund, and this is the DPW. Look at number 15.
We voted that one.
We voted that already.
Next one is
9-0-0.
17.
Thank you. Now, we heard from BPAC tonight. So that is trail construction. Do people need more information or more time on that, or more discussion?
Comfortable voting?
No one needs more time or more discussion? All right, if we could have a motion on Article number 17. Title of this is
I recommend the
Trail
town so vote.
Construction, Sassakas Drive to Meadow Road from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Condition,
Since it's free cash, I recommend the town so vote.
okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
And any discussion then? All in favor? We have 8, all opposed,
Oppose, I'm going to abstain.
abstain. So that's an 8-0-1. Article 18 is easement surveying and trail design. This is from the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee again. This is in the amount of $30,000 from free cash. Do people need more information on this, or are you ready to vote? Looks like we are ready to vote. Do I have a motion?
I recommend the town so vote.
Okay, there's a move that we recommend the town so vote. Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Mr. Roush seconds that, and all in favor? Looks like we have 9-0-0. All right. All right, then it's on to Article 19, which is trail easements for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. Again, this is a no-cost article. Do we need any more information? No. Are we ready to vote? It looks like we are ready to vote. Can I have a motion?
I recommend the town so vote.
Second?
Second.
And all in favor? Looks like we have a 900. All right. Prior year bill, let me see, this is number 20. We heard from the Country Club Operating Committee previously, and this is a $1,074 departmental transfer. Do we need more information or discussion? We are ready to vote.
I move that we recommend the town vote to transfer and appropriate from Country Club retained earnings the sum of $1,704.72.
Excuse me, I think that's wrong.
Was it?
Amount.
We got
Transpose the amount.
$1,074 and, tell me.
72 cents.
Yep, is this a
That's
transfer?
what it says.
You said
It says raise,
1,704.
it says vote to transfer and appropriate from Country Club retained earnings.
Okay, transfer and appropriate.
Yep.
Okay.
But he accidentally transposed numbers when he
That's
said
right.
it out loud.
Okay.
Sorry.
As written in the warrant? Okay. No, this-
We should specify the amount,
Okay, so it's $1,074.72.
72.
All right, all in favor? We have 900.
I think we carried that without a second.
Okay. Oh. Mr. Collins, Sean's going to second that one. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. All right. Okay, go to number 21. This is to amend the FY19 Country Club budget. And this was in the amount of $44,300. It's a budget amendment. Are we ready to vote? People have the information they need?
I have more questions I was going to ask.
You have more questions? Right, I think I'm going to hold that then. I'm going to circle that and we'll come back to it. Then let's take a look at, oh, that one was a two-part one, right? Yeah. We'll come back to it. That one was a little more complex.
Or discussion, I should say.
Yeah. All right, country club enhancements.
Do you have questions, or do you just want discussion?
I guess I want discussion.
Okay.
That might have some questions of you.
I'm kind of trying to dispose of the ones that we can move.
Right, yeah. No, but
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's whether or not you want more information, which means we gotta get the country club back in, or we gotta get the town treasurer in, or something like that, or is it just
Committee discussion.
committee discussion?
I think the
Okay.
committee discussion will
Okay.
probably take care of it.
Okay, then we'll come back to that later for committee discussion. Look at Article number 22. These are country club enhancements in the amount of $6,400. The funding source is CC retained earnings. Do we need further discussion or information? Looks like we are ready to vote.
I move we recommend the town transfer from Country Club retained earnings, and transfer and appropriate from Country Club retained earnings the sum of $6,400 for the purposes as stated in the warrant.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? 900. All right, a property appraisal. This is from the Board of Selectmen, number 23. This is $25,000 cash.
We haven't had the presentation on this yet from the planning board.
Okay. This will be planning board.
Planning board and open space.
Okay, so we need them, and do we have them, are they scheduled to come in yet? Yes, they're coming in on Thursday. So we will be we'll be meeting with them on 10/4/2018. So I will leave that one open. Country Club Electrical. Looks like, I think we're ready to vote on that one. Do we have a motion?
I move that the town vote to transfer and appropriate, the town so vote, sorry, it's free cash.
It's $9,600 in free cash.
Yeah, so it's
Second?
a town so vote.
Second.
And all in favor? We have 9? Yep, 900. All right. Okay, here we are with the Municipal Building Committee on Article 25, rescinding excess debt authorization. So they're rescinding borrowing for a fire station by $5,000. This is, or $500,000. This is paired with Article 26, where they're going to appropriate that $500,000 for the Forbes building in the same amount. Do people need more information on these two articles, or are you ready to vote? Ready?
I think I may have missed one of these, so I'd probably abstain, but I don't know that we'd be able to discuss it.
Okay, so so for 25 and 26, you'd like to be able to discuss? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you don't think we need to?
Well-
Okay,
No.
all right.
I'll just abstain.
Is
you'll-
anybody in
okay.
talking about this?
Yeah, we already
We haven't had
did.
anybody talk about it yet. If we want somebody to talk about it, we can do that.
Jim Malloy
So I'm
talked
hearing
about
two
it.
things. I'm hearing
Jim
you already
Malloy
did
talked
talk about it. and then
Jim
we didn't
Malloy
have it.
talked
Okay.
about it. I'm comfortable with what he said, but I
Okay.
don't know if
And
other
Christie
people...
could probably finish it Thursday if you
Sure,
haven't.
yeah, let's add that then to Christie, to what Christie will talk about on Thursday. So 25 and 26, we will ask for more information on 10-4. Okay? Then we go to transfer. Transfer of funds from Fales MSBA schematic design. This we heard tonight from the schools. Do we need more information before we vote on the school articles we heard about tonight? Hank, would you rather hear from the treasurer before we?
No, I mean,
You're okay?
I mean, the way Steve described the justification is incorrect, but it has no bearing on whether we need to do this.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
the need for the town to do this is somewhat independent of
Okay.
the fact that Steve described a funding,
Right.
a cost savings that's not real.
Right, the interest rate is,
Well, yes and no. I mean, we've already borrowed the money, and we have the money to use,
Okay,
and we're paying 1.5% on it.
okay, so,
If we were to close the previous article and reduce the debt amount on that short-term borrowing, and then go out and do another short-term borrowing, we may not get the money at 1.5%, we may get it at 2% or 2.5%. Even though it's short-term borrowing, even though Hank's point was absolutely on point, that, yeah, it's short-term borrowing rates, and eventually it's gonna get rolled into a 20-year bond, and we don't really know what that
What the
20-year
20-year bond
bond
is
is
gonna be.
going to be.
all right,
That could, in a year's time, when everything gets
it's fluctuating.
all rolled together and finally put into a long-term bond, it could be at 3.5%.
Okay.
But, at the current moment, we have the money at 1.5% to utilize until that,
In the short term.
until that time point,
Okay,
when we will roll a number of short-term borrowings all together.
At the end of the project is
At the
when
end
you
of the
go out.
project
Okay.
into one big one. So,
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
Got it.
there is a little bit of, a potential little bit of savings to it, but it's certainly not the main driver
right. And the work.
behind the article.
And as Hank said, the work has to go forward anyway. All right, we discussed that a little bit. Are people ready to vote?
I move we recommend the town vote to transfer $228,000 from Article 5 of the Fall 2017 Special Town Meeting and $150,000 from Article 20 of the 2018 Annual Town Meeting to the Fales School MSBA schematic design phase project.
Second.
Okay. That was 26, that was for 26, you said?
27.
Yeah, or that was 27, 27. All right, is there a second on Article
Second.
27? Andrew just seconded, any further discussion? All in favor? That was a 900. Okay. Then we go to 28, transfer of funds also from MSBA, and 28, do we need further discussion, or are we ready to vote after hearing tonight?
Ready to vote.
Ready to vote, it sounds like, and so do I have a motion?
I've moved to recommend that the town vote to amend the debt authorization provided in Article 10 of the 2015 town meeting in the amount of $480,000, and further to reallocate surplus funds from the Armstrong 4 classroom replacement project, and for the, no, don't have to do that, to pay the cost of the MSBA design phase of the Hastings School Accelerated Repair Project.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? 900. All right. Then we had Article 29, also from the schools, the upper parking lot, guardrail, and front sidewalk replacement at the high school. Are we ready to vote on this one? You had a question, Beth?
No,
Or-
ready to vote.
It looks like we are ready to vote.
I move that the town vote to reallocate surplus funds in the amount of $111,944 from Article 21 of the 2018 town meeting, and further to amend the debt authorization in the amount of $120,056 from Article 10 of the 2015 town meeting for the purpose of replacing the guardrail in the upper parking lot and replacing the front entrance concrete sidewalk at the high school, or take any action therein.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Driscoll. Any discussion? Do you have a question?
Sorry.
Yep.
And maybe I missed this was the meeting, but
Yep.
was it demonstrated the need with pictures, or, I mean, I don't, we're just sort of on faith that this needed to happen, or
Yeah.
who said it? I mean, how?
So, they said some of it was the original 2001 construction, and it's no longer.
No, I guess I should have gone out and looked at those things. I just don't,
Yeah.
it's all kind of paperwork here that we need this.
I think they had, I sense they have presentation slides ready to go, and they weren't going to burden them with us with them
Right.
tonight. But we should definitely
I mean,
recommend, if they're needed on the town meeting floor, we should recommend that the visuals be there.
We asked them to do a 10 or 15-minute presentation instead of a long one.
Yeah.
And so that slide, I'm sure they have a color pretty picture, but that slide probably got lost in the wash.
Okay, so maybe what I'll do is, if it fits otherwise, I'll vote for it. I'll go look at it myself, and
You
then
could always
I'll
ask
for
us
a
to
revote
revote.
if we,
If
know,
you
if I
look at
think
it and
we're
go, it's
crazy.
pristine.
You're good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So all right, we haven't had a motion on this one yet then, or did you just read the whole
I
motion?
just read the
And we got a
motion.
second, where did we get our second? From Jim Driscoll. All right, all in favor? 900. All right, now here are these larger items, 30, 31, 32, and our assistant town manager and our financial director are coming in on Thursday to discuss that with us. So I'm going to say, we're not quite ready for those yet.
Can I be, I'm not ready for 33.
And 33, we're not ready for that either, because we need discussion. You need, okay, you want a longer discussion on 33, okay.
I want to finish reading the charter.
Finish reading the charter, okay.
Which I have.
All right. General bylaw residency requirement, town manager 34. Let me go back and see what this one was. 34.
I think I want to add this to.
General bylaw residency requirement. All righty. Do people remember this one?
Yeah, but I think Christie may.
Do we want to ask, yes, yep.
This was so that I think town employees who are necessary for certain bodies but don't live in the town can actually be on
Can
those
participate on
boards.
committees and boards. Yes, I'm remembering, because there's, right. So Beth, do you want, mentioned, do you want Christie to talk to that a little more, or do you feel comfortable with this one?
I think I want Christie to talk, I think I want Christie to talk with it, and I'd love to hear from, I want to say open forum, not that people show up for our open forum, on, the feelings of having non-town members on town boards.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like to talk about that as well, in committee, actually. I would have some things to offer on that, so I would be happy to wait and vote on this when we have time to discuss it. And we can ask Christie to weigh in as well.
Would it be all right to ask her who the people are that
Yeah.
are currently?
I think
Let's
there's a
have the
lot, we'll have the
Let's
conversation.
move on and have the conversation as a conversation, so we don't get
Good
messed
point.
up.
She may not
Thank
be
you.
prepared is why I'm asking.
Well,
I did
Okay.
put out an email saying that I would get back to her to prepare for things for
Right,
Thursday
I mean,
night.
one thing's,
So we've just added at least three more warrant articles to her plate, and we'll make sure that,
right.
that we get back to her on that. Thank you.
I was going to
Yes,
say, one thing I told her was I'd send her a running list of the articles we're throwing at her
Yep.
for more questions, not the questions. But
it's in the, I sent an email to the committee, it was late, it was toward the end of the day, saying, if you have additional questions for Christie and for Leah, let me know, and I'll get them to them so they can prepare together. And this would be one of them. All right, then we're on to 35. Thank you. Article 35. This is general
I move that we
bylaws.
recommend the town so vote.
All right, you're ready to
Is
go?
this-
Okay, I'm ready to vote.
Get those fishing licenses out there.
Okay.
I think we ought to make it $100, you know, if you're a non-resident,
There you go.
you know?
So, okay, and again, 35 is the Sandra
I
Pond
have a-
Reservoir
I have a
regulations.
question with this one. Were we worried about legality of this? I thought this one was thrown back to the lawyers or something, and that we were waiting for further information about what we're allowed to do.
I don't remember that.
Not that I'm aware, not that I remember.
No.
It's in here.
I swear I...
Do we have a motion
we have a motion and a second on this
and a
article.
second in discussion? So your question was, yeah,
If for some reason, between now and the time of town meeting... the
It's not legal.
The town council advises that it's not legal, the Board of Selectmen will, or the town manager will withdraw the article on the floor.
but, okay, so assuming
We
that...
don't need to go through the process of sorting out whether it's legal or not.
So
That's the job of the town manager.
Right, and I don't, they wouldn't have, I doubt they would have put this on the warrant article if it wasn't legal. But,
Town council usually reads the entire warrant before the selectmen
Okay.
vote on it, so.
okay. All right, with that consideration, how many are in favor? How many yeas? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, are you?
It's 9,
Are you
9,
supporting?
9, 0,
It's a 9? It's 900, I couldn't see your hand, Beth.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
That was one of my, like...
That was Article 36, to amend.
This is all planning board stuff. So
And they're all coming, so
they're
planning board.
scheduled in on the 4th.
Yep, so that's 34, 37, or 36, 37, 38. The land swap, are we ready to vote on Article 39? And that's conservation. Derek was here, told us, showed us, did a show and tell on this land swap. I think we're ready to vote? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move that we recommend that the town so vote.
And do I have a second? A couple of seconds. All in favor? That's a 900. Okay. We heard about the zoning setback from Fales Elementary tonight.
They haven't had a public hearing on that yet,
No.
Oh, so we're going to
No,
hold
tomorrow
it?
so I would hold it, and on Thursday, I would
Yeah.
ask the
Okay.
planning board to just convey to us the results of the
Okay.
public hearing,
Okay,
just as good practice. I don't
Great.
think it'll change anything, but it's just good practice.
thank you. 41.
The town.
All right, we are at 41, the DPW HVAC improvements, which I think Carl told us about these. Our town engineer and our DPW told us about this. Are we ready to vote?
To see if, I recommend the town so vote.
I move that we recommend the town so vote.
And a second. Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Good.
Looks like a 900. All right. Okay, that's progress. And I will get back to Assistant Town Manager Christy Williams on the additional things we want to hear about from her on Thursday night. Anything else? No? Okay. Future draft agendas, you'll see on the second page here, obviously. On Thursday, we have the planning board and coming to talk about planning and open space articles. And we have Christy Williams and Leah Talbot coming in to talk about the warrant articles that we're asking more information for. And then when we look on Thursday, or Tuesday, October 9th, our meeting is going to be at the Westborough Fire Station, And we have Youth and Family Services confirmed for that night?
Yes.
Okay, and I
She knows where to go.
okay. She does know?
I will make sure she knows.
Okay. And I have not confirmed the Board of Selectmen for that night. Do we need the Board of Selectmen on any of their articles at this point?
The charter, well, I won't be there, but.
Well, we had selectmen
Yeah,
had made.
Yep.
You know,
Already spoke to his
Spoke, I mean, it
intention.
was his article, and he spoke to it,
And,
and the Board of Selectmen voted 3-2 on it.
right, they're not going to have more information than he already gave
So there
us.
isn't gonna be,
Yeah.
you know, much more information other than for us to have a discussion on what Dexter brought forward. and
Right, I
that,
think we'll have a committee
The wording of the current wording of the charter,
Yeah,
as to whether or not the privilege already exists inside of the charter for the Board of Selectmen to reject an appointment, basically, of
Yeah.
the town manager.
right. So you know what, I expect us to have committee discussion on that.
Yep, I think it's our discussion.
And I don't
internally.
think we need the Board of Selectmen in here, but I do expect committee discussion on that.
Yep.
All right, thank you. And then I know that there are a number of tasks to be done as we prepare our booklet for the fall meeting. Other liaison reports, comments, or concerns from the committee members? Yes, Paul?
Derek, who is on the conservation officer, on that extra parking lot, replied to Jody and I that he has not been able to get that quote yet. He's still trying to get it, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, great. All
We
right.
already voted
And
for
we
it,
already
but-
voted for that
Right.
as is, and we don't have any further information.
Right.
Okay. Yes?
Ma would like us to discuss how many copies of the R&R book.
So do you have to start meeting?
Yeah, with Curry. All right, I defer to the committee here. It's fall town meeting.
Is there anything particularly contentious?
Do you know how many we did last year?
Probably 300.
Yeah, I can go back in my emails and check.
We typically do about 300 to 400, and extras get given to the high school to use for social studies, civics classes. So it's not the worst thing in the world to not have enough, and people can share to some extent.
So, yes,
I
Sean?
think last fall we were artificially high because of the lights vote.
That's what I
Yes.
was going to ask,
So
is
there
we
wasn't
don't have an
typical-
artificially inflated vote this time.
Yeah.
Can you go back and look at the last 2 years?
Not 2 years.
Okay, but you know last year.
Just
Curry might know.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay? Anything, and yeah, that's what you need at least to start the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'll be CCing you on everything.
Great, thanks. Anything else? All right.
Oh,
Thank you.
somebody's going to need to volunteer to proofread it, because I will not be present. And basically, in the process, once we say, hey, this is it, Curry takes a copy of the book, they make essentially a sample, and they want somebody to go through and just make sure, you know, pages didn't get switched out of order, anything egregious, or any numbers that, you know, just somehow didn't get put in there right, before it gets printed.
Okay, someone's going to have to do a close reading that Beth usually does before it goes to print. What are your days away? Are you here on Thursday, or are you gone on? No,
I am here
you're-
this week, and
Okay.
then
Then you're gone for 2 weeks. Okay, all right.
Well, we have to have the book done Tuesday night. We don't have enough, because we can't turn it into Curry.
And you mean Tuesday, October 9th? Or
Yeah.
After we
pretty much- we
hear?
have to pretty much have the book done.
close to it.
Right, we have to have our work done so that Paula, I'm assuming Paula is probably going to do the
Yeah.
vast majority of the,
Typing parts.
the vast majority of the data entry and
Yep.
an assembly of the PDF that will get sent over to Curry.
So let's be.
You know, because we got to give Paula time to do her, to do her work so that she can get, because I think, didn't you have a discussion, they have to have it by Thursday?
So Tuesday, October 9th, we're hearing from,
Find that out?
I did.
Tuesday, October 9th, we're going to be hearing from our last department, and
Right.
that's Youth and Family Services. Then we have to have this
So
to
we need to be,
Curry
no,
by
we
when?
need to be pretty much wrapped up with
All right.
everything by Tuesday night.
As of
Including our
now,
message.
You only have 14 articles left to vote on.
Yep.
Out of the
So
41.
including the message and the
Reports.
town manager's version of the file, right?
I would suggest if you can do it, we ought to be looking at a first draft of the message to voters Thursday.
Okay.
And asking Leah to have a set of numbers for us on Tuesday, so that if we need to change them, they can get changed Wednesday, and we can finalize them Thursday if we really need to. Because my sense is, a week from this Thursday is the Thursday before the town meeting, Monday, and
That's like
we're going to have to give that stuff to Curry.
It should be going to Curry on Thursday before our meeting.
They won't be able to do it. We pretty much have to have
We have to finish it, we have to give it to Curry like the Wednesday before the
either
town.
that or either,
So Wednesday, so get it to Curry, you want it to Curry on Wednesday, October 10th.
Yeah, but Curry's going to come back to us.
3 days.
When Curry typesets it, they'll come back with a proof copy. And that's the proof copy that I think Beth was mentioning that we need to make a look at and make sure that nothing got messed up.
So if the proof copy is back to us on Thursday, October 11th.
Wait, Mara, you got to ask Curry when the proof copy, I mean, we need to
said
tell
one
them when
day.
we'll submit, they'll tell us when they get the proof copy back.
One day. I already asked that.
Okay.
All right, so the timeline, Hank, that you just suggested is the first draft, including the message to the voters, should be completed on Thursday, 10/4. That's the date of our next meeting later this week. And then that Leah would come back the following Tuesday by October 9th with the finished set of numbers.
There's a couple of financial pages in there, I don't remember exactly what.
I'm actually meeting with Leah tomorrow night.
Okay, and then Thursday, Wednesday, the 10th?
Preliminary look
Okay.
at those numbers, so.
Great, thank you.
So she should have copies of the report for us on Thursday night.
Okay, so that'd be great if she has it
Yeah,
Thursday.
no, I asked, already talked to
Plan
her
on going
about,
over it, I mean, just-
I already talked to her about looking at those, those two reports.
Okay.
Seeing that Jim isn't here
Yep.
to be a driver,
Right.
because he was he obviously was the driver.
Yep. So that's excellent. So and we're setting goal to get the copy over to Curry on the 10th. We could get it back here on the 11th for a proof, and we're meeting that night. We have a meeting scheduled for Thursday night, the 11th. Do we use that for proofing and finishing and finalizing
You
time?
don't want to have 8, 9 people proof the Curry
No.
document.
No, you need one person.
You just need
Who's
one
good.
person to basically go over and make sure
This
that,
is-
page 7 didn't end up behind page 14.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
it's
or
So if
something
we
like that.
keep to that schedule, then we have no work to do as a committee on Thursday, the 11th?
If
That
we're
would be
really
the goal.
fortunate, we won't have to meet that Thursday.
All right. Okay, all right, that's the goal. That is the goal timeline there. Thank you, Gary, for coordinating that as well. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's a so moved and a second. Meeting is adjourned. See you Thursday night.